assume it's like travel by road. It's not going to be like walking through random stuff.
Yeah, I don't for even though this is a zoomed in view of the map, I feel like this map is still too zoomed out to put roads on it.
Okay.
Um,
Well, especially like not a main road or something.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good to me.
Also, I had made the map before I had put any sort of like thought behind like the actual distances these were going to be. So you can see like where the over here where the uh, lighthouse is, and then this it's sort of like I was like, oh, it'd be cool. I'll have like a little island, and then that's where like the and then when I did it, I realized that this bridge is like 10 miles long.
It's pretty
Like,
cool.
that's I mean, that's that for medieval sort of like technology. That's a pretty long bridge, but it is what it is.
And magic.
Exactly.
And in all the days leading up, did we learn anything specific about this circus? Like, what to expect, that kind of stuff?
Actually, I have all kinds of things you guys could possibly learn. So, um, can do any number of roles. Um, we can do history roles. We can do investigation roles. We can do nature or religion, and we can do arcana.
I
Those
have
will all
3 of
give you things.
those.
I have 3 of them as well.
Yeah, I have Arcana, History, and Investigation.
Yeah. Um.
Pebble has nature.
Well, I'll stick with Arcana since I am a wizard.
I'll go for nature.
I'll have some preliminary. No, I can't even speak to that. I'll just have some investigations of them. No.
Verlin comes back like, guys, there's a circus coming.
Yes, there's a stuff. Believe it's the one Pebble was talking about.
All right, so let's see what we all find here.
Do I find directions?
That's pretty much just a straight shot from.
Guys, I figured out where it is.
So, basic stuff first. Trockford is, it's not a particularly large settlement, but it's so again, like, so looking at the map, I mean, like anything that's got a name right now would be considered a larger sort of. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to call it a city, but it's certainly larger villages than would be throughout. So there are obviously smaller communities that would be throughout this map that just don't have they have names. They're just not big enough. And I mean, it took me forever just to come up with the names for the ones that I listed. So I don't want the map to be filled with 1,000 little tiny hamlets or whatever, but just to keep in mind that it looks like there's big empty, like there's big giant empty spaces here, but it's not really empty. And there probably are also like trees and forests and things like that, but it's just, again, I'm showing the ones that would be larger that you could see from a zoomed out sort of scale. But anyway, Trockford, it's mostly sort of especially compared to Rivengard, it's kind of rustic. Cottages and homes and businesses, and the town does have a fairly decent sized marketplace. There are a lot of farms that surround Rivengard, and the stuff that doesn't really sort of make it into Rivengard is sort of sold at Trockford. So in some ways, you kind of think of Rivengard would have your supermarkets, and Trockford would have your farm grown goods straight from the fields to your table, right? the festivities, or the leader of Trockford, who I guess he doesn't have the official title, but essentially would be kind of like a mayor, who is actually a cleric. Um, his name is Errol Collingsworth. I'll just type it in if anybody wants to write it down. He actually doesn't live in the sort of village of Trockford proper. Out on the outskirts of Trockford, there's an abbey, essentially, that is called the Golden Leaf Abbey. So, some information that you find. Additionally, you find out that this is the 6th year that the Carnival of Oddities and Delights has come to try. You find that originally residents of Trockford were not sort of happy to see them appear. Trockford does have a large contingent of religious folks, hence its proximity to the abbey, and some of them were sort of afraid the carnival might interfere with sort of their religious festivities, and they did pretty quickly change their minds as Errol Collingsworth himself sort of, I wouldn't say he vouched for the carnival, but he was happy to have them there, and so everybody else sort of fell into line as well. Let's see, what else do you find here? So you guys all rolled pretty well, so you do find some more stuff here. So you find out that Errol Collingsworth himself was at one time a very charming and jovial man, and would give like these impassioned and sort of uplifting sermons, and people would dance and cavort, and everybody was really excited to have him around, and he was very well liked. And in recent years, however, he has sort of withdrawn from society, giving sort of very dry sermons, and letting most of his assistants sort of do most of the activities and such around the town and around the abbey itself. Let's see. So, just outside of the abbey, some woodcutters had recently stumbled to, when they were clearing some woods, had stumbled upon some standing stones that were sort of buried in the underbrush. And according to the reports, I guess, the stones are sort of arranged in a circle. Each one is carved with these beautiful runes carved in. Nobody is entirely certain who put them there, or who made the carvings, or what the purpose of these stones would be. The only other thing that you come across is that Errol is not the only person who's sort of been withdrawn from sort of the public life in around Trockford in recent years. The local butcher, who was a very loud and obnoxious man, has become very quiet and subdued, and rarely even talking to anybody anymore. And then there is also a sort of, he was a bit of a recluse anyway, but there was a druid who everyone just knew as Bridger. Um, he has completely disappeared. So That's all you.
Disappearing druids.
Oh, that's mysterious, but it has nothing to do with the circus.
And he was not. It's not like anybody. It's not like super shocking necessarily because people didn't see him all that often anyway. There's nobody's seen him in a while.
Oh,
So he basically disappeared in hermit sense.
Yeah. The only other thing before you guys head out is that he's already gone, so he doesn't. He can't. It's not a. He's not telling you this. But maybe we'll say that Nyx relayed this information to you, and that Quinn is actually left the city as well. He got word from Ada, and he went to meet up with her. So he's not there at the moment either.
Okay, I guess we won't be able to cast all the fun spells on Pebble before the circuit.
Correct. He was heading to East Keep though, so it's on the map over here.
well, we'll have to be careful, Pebble. We certainly don't want you disappearing.
I'll be fine. Grix can cast spells on me.
Grix kind of just looks like, kind of like he wasn't really paying attention much, and nods.
Yeah, see?
Do you wish for any of us to keep hold of your money while we're there?
Me?
Unfortunately, yes, Pebble.
My money can stay in my pockets.
Very well, I'm just concerned you may get a little excited.
Don't worry, I know about the importance of money. Gemma told me all about it, so I keep it all in my.
You should be careful. Large gatherings like these also tend to draw pickpockets.
If someone picks at my pocket, I will punch them.
Grix is gonna kind of walk up and say, "Well, if she taught you about money being valuable, she surely must have taught you that you could also hide somewhere only you know."
Her eyes just grow wide. I'll be right back. Wait, I don't want to put it outside somewhere weird. Mm, Close your eyes a second.
Wait, you
Grix.
know,
Close your eyes.
banks do this too. They'll take your money for you and hide it somewhere only you and they know.
But I don't want them to know. Close your eyes.
I will close my eyes and turn around.
I will make sure they're all closing their eyes, but not stealthily prying up a wooden some gold down there.
Nice.
Okay, you can look now.
Oh, I wonder where it is.
I don't know. Well,
Just make sure
actually,
you don't
only I
forget
know.
where you put it.
Nope. I will remember real good.
And I'll go up to her and I'll say, "Do you still have enough to bring with you?"
Yeah, I have kept 50 gold.
He just kind of nods and says, well then, is everyone ready? Should we head out?"
We need to go get Carrot first.
I think we should all get our horses. You said that Trockford was, what, 10 miles out?
Yep.
Good plan. Then to the stables. I know at least Pebble and mine are in the same place.
I don't remember the other two even having horses, but
No,
I do have one.
Yeah, I do. I just can't remember what staples they're in.
I probably would have moved it to the one close to the guild hall after settling in.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I don't make you guys like pay to, because it's such a minuscule amount that they make you pay a bunch of like copper and silver and crap. It's like whatever. So yeah, you can get those easily enough. It'll take you on horseback. I guess it would take you maybe an hour and a half or so, because I think it'll probably take about 3 hours to walk at 10 miles, because the
Okay.
average person walks about 3 miles an hour. So horses
Works for
walk
me.
a little bit faster.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, like going along the road sort of follows the river, which is the Black Strand River, which is actually a pretty large river. It's actually a couple miles across in certain um, parts. So obviously, it's actually wider, although it doesn't really look like it based on the map. But it's a little bit wider towards Rivengard as it sort of empties out into the sea. So you've got a nice. It's a nice walk essentially. It's still really really hot outside, but you get a little bit of a breeze kind of blowing off the river, which is nice. You have the nice sounds of the river. It's not like a super busy thoroughfare on this day at least. You do notice more people going the same direction as you rather than coming the other way. So you would imagine that there are other people that are sort of heading out towards the carnival circus type thing. So the Trockford sort of appears in the distance, and you can see even from as you approach that it seems to be bustling with activity, and you can see banners and streamers that are sort of stretching from rooftop to rooftop. And then you can see that sort of like in the grazing fields that are like beyond the village, whatever, brightly colored tents that have red and gold colored wagons sort of around there. And then you can see like dozens of sort of odd looking individuals, I guess, sort of going back and forth between them. What you see essentially, so if you as you're to the right, to the southeast, I suppose, you can see in the distance, up on a small little rise, you can see like the Abbey, the Greenleaf Abbey, and then closest to the village, because again the circus is sort of past Trockford, so it's a little bit on the other side of it. And you can see a Ferris wheel actually closest to the city. Behind the sort of Ferris wheel, you can see there's like a large circular tent. It's kind of hard. It looks like it's not even quite a tent because there's no top on it. So it looks kind of like maybe there's a little bit of like a circular type of arena type thing. And then you can see to the side of that there are jousting lanes for horses and stuff to run at each other, basically. So you can see it gets people milling about. You can see all kinds of crazy stuff. Some of you may never have even seen a Ferris wheel before. It's not a huge Ferris wheel, but now I mean even a smaller one's pretty cool to see.
Has this ever been in Rivengard before? This circus?
Yes.
Okay, so it wouldn't be the first time. Not.
I mean, I don't know if you would have, because again, a lot of people in Rivengard, like the idea, honestly, of people in Rivengard, don't go to see
Yeah. Well,
So-
my whole line of thinking is if he was at some point training to be a tinker, he probably would have interested him seeing stuff like the Ferris
That's
wheel.
true.
So yeah, I'll be kind of like riding next to Pebble and like pointing things to her and telling her the names of them. Like they call that the Ferris wheel, and you can see the tents over there where the food will be, and just like going on about all the little things.
Pebble is just wide eyed, staring at all stuff. You mean we can get on a chair and you go up on the Ferris wheel?
He kind of looks and says, well, yeah, it brings you up around in a circle.
Can probably see my village from up there.
Was your village close by?
No, it's on the other side, and she points east-ish.
He just nods. And says, "Oh, if you're brave enough to go on later, you could look."
Oh yeah, I'm very brave. Are you gonna come?
No, not me.
I can catch you if you fall.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's one of the things that made me not want to follow in the family business. My father helps make the elevators in Revenant Garden. I'm not a big.
Verlin can catch you at the bottom though.
He could also miss, but uh, maybe, and he kind of like goes a little. He looks terrified.
Do you
Don't
have so
worry,
little
when
faith?
yeah, he can catch you really good.
I'm very small. The wind could take me and blow me away, and I'll land further than you thought, and then I could break my arm. And he kind of rambles on.
That's not gonna happen. We're not light enough to fly like that.
Yes, that's not how the wind works.
Don't you have any spell or something that might be able to help you in the event that you fall?
Well, one, but I'd rather not have to do that. Fine. We can try it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you wish, Grix, before you go on it, I can give you the potion I've been holding out on everyone.
And then you can fall, you can drink it. Wait, what
Oh.
potion?
It's a potion of courage.
I think a few mugs of ale will enough courage.
That's basically what he's offering.
Oh, okay. Well, he figured you have done your own thing a couple times. You might have something.
Yes, it's called liquid courage.
Mm-hmm.
So on an outside game side note, I saw this in his discussion the other day about using real world things and then describing them in a fantasy world. And the example they use were like Arabian horses. So like, what do you call an Arabian horse? Because that doesn't make any sense within like D&D because there's no Arabia, right?
Like a desert
And
horse?
so, well, that was the thing. So people were basically just deciding, like, so what do? Do you come up with your own name, or do you just use the name? The reason I bring that up is because Ferris wheel is named after a dude whose last name is Ferris. So I was thinking about that, and so I looked to see, is there another name for a Ferris wheel? And in fact, originally, I suppose, like the best I can find, in like 17th century Bulgaria, they were like the origin of them. They called them pleasure wheels.
Yeah.
So the way I see it, it's just kind of like if you were translating between two languages, right? Like
Right.
it's even if they would have never specifically called it a Ferris wheel, the word that we would use in English would be Ferris wheel.
Yeah, it's just funny because it made me think. It's like, well, what does it have another name? Like, does it exist something else? Like, is it just because like people will say Kleenex when they mean tissue because but Kleenex is actually the brand, but people know, you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
they know what
Yeah,
you're
it's so
talking about.
popular that
But it's
it's
so popular.
become
So like, I didn't know
synonymous.
if maybe there was actually like a name for the Ferris wheel, and we just called it a Ferris wheel because that's what we sort of know it as. But
Yeah, that was like the brand of Ferris
right,
wheel.
exactly.
I actually saw something on that the other day with what do you guys call the game when you run up to someone's door, knock and run away?
Knock a door run.
Ding dong ditch.
Dig Dog
Yeah.
Ditch, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, see, everyone has like different names for it, and everyone was like, "What the hell do you like?" It's like, it's not even like something that has a proper name. But no, I'm with Caden. I think it's you could describe something as like looking like it has Arabian architecture in D&D, even though there's no like it's the description. It's not like it's not what you're saying the people call it.
Yeah. So again, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, obviously everybody, all of us know, and us calling it Ferris wheel in game doesn't hurt anything. It was curious to me the fact that like the only other name I can find outside of like a German name which I can't pronounce.
It probably
Weiner,
sounds terrifying
well,
in German.
it's Weiner Weisenrad is
Yeah.
the Viennese giant wheel,
Mhm.
or just pleasure wheels.
I mean, but do you really want to go up to someone and say, "Hey, would you like to ride the pleasure wheel with me?"
Exactly, I know.
Mm.
I guess it's probably Weiner Reisenrad.
Well, but also when they said it in Bulgarian, they might have been using a different word. You know what I mean? Like to us, the closest translation is pleasure
Pleasure
wheel.
wheels, right? Exactly.
But whatever word they were using was probably more independent
recreational.
of the other meaning. Yeah.
There are some things like I would not have any idea how to describe an Arabian horse besides saying Arabian horse. Like
I'd just call it a desert horse.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, but I mean still, just like you could do like basic things like that, but it's like there's some things that can't be described without like using the terms we know from our world.
Yeah. What's funny is I have a friend who's in one of the other discords that I'm in. He's from Iceland, and we make fun of him all the time because like we're talking about like how the closest translation for us is it would be like pleasure wheel, but in Bulgarian it probably is something different and doesn't seem as strange. But in Icelandic, which is an insane language to begin with, when you translate computer, so like the direct translation from Icelandic to English of the word computer is number witch or number prophetess.
I mean,
Like
they're not wrong.
Yeah, but it's a number witch. I just think it's hilarious that that's what they would call computers.
I mean, everything is ones and zeros.
So anyway, we'll just continue to call it a Ferris wheel, but
Oh no, I'd like you to pronounce it in the German way, just so you could have to say it over and over again.
yeah, the Viner, whatever. So, as you guys make your way into the village, you can see everybody is you know, milling about, and there's people yelling, and lots of excitement, music, and I have other music that I will play. In fact, some little taverny type. So again, the Trockford's not like super large, and I assume that you're not really interested too much in the city itself and making your way towards the carnival itself.
Well, is there like, is it like in the city as well, and then it's just like out in like the fields where they have like the big stuff set up, or is it kind of just like, you know, it's next to the city?
It's basically to the city.
Okay.
I mean, like the city or the village itself, town, I don't even know what to call it, is sort of celebrating as well. So they're having like a big party. So I mean, but it's like the main events essentially are outside.
Like
So
all the activities and stuff.
yeah, I mean the town does it to sort of like try to cash in a little bit as well. You know, people going to that are coming like from Ribbon Guard, like, oh, you're gonna go through Trockford. Oh, stop at you can stay at the inn here while you're, you know, because the carnival's supposed to be there for a week. So you know they're basically acting as the resort, I guess. But overall, like, there's not any games or anything in the town itself. So
At some point, I'd probably try to go look at the circle, the stones in the circle. But not right now.
okay, yeah, because I mean that's past the abbey, so that's a ways away.
Well, as we're going by, does it look like we're out of place riding our horses around here? Like, are people in the actual circus like still on horseback, or are they kind of all walking?
You would have to get off of your horses to go into the carnival itself.
All right. Well, then in that case, Grix will kind of look at everyone and say, should we go find maybe a stable? And were we staying here overnight? Or I don't know if we're gonna want to travel back after being here all day in the dark.
Okay.
If we're gonna stay overnight, we should try to get a room now before they book.
And then go
Agreed.
tomorrow. And then go back to the circus again the next day. And the next day. They're here for 7 days. That's a week.
We'll see how much we could get done in one day.
You should cast the speedy spell on me. Do you know the speedy spell?
No, I can make you bigger so that way your legs are longer.
I can already run pretty fast. That's okay. Okay, carrot. I'm gonna buy you a carrot, and then I'm gonna go. Oh, you guys can get a room. I'm gonna go.
Grix, why don't you go with her, and me and Verlin can get a room.
Okay. Well, most of the taverns would have. Well, actually, would most of the taverns have their own stables, like, or would there be a stable in just a general stable in the city? Or like, could we tie our horses up at the tavern that we're going to stay at?
I mean, there's some inns and stuff that would actually have
Okay.
some stables. There probably aren't enough. You guys could probably get a couple of rooms at most, because there would be obviously a lot of people there that it would be
Yeah, probably have to bunk up.
staying. Yeah, you would. And then in addition to that, they're going to gouge you on the prices because they can.
All right. Well, in that case, Grix is going to take 10 gold out of his pocket and hand it to Caden and just say, well, this should cover my portion of a stable and whatever room. Here, and he just drops 10 gold in your hand.
Okay, I'll take it, and I'll grab his horse's reins.
Donkey,
Grab his donkey's reins.
grab my ass.
Yeah, I'll grab Grix's ass.
Yeah, we do that after the recording's finished.
And he grabs my ass, and then we go to the pleasure wheel.
Then go to the pleasure wheel.
And Pebble will give him 3 gold and be like, "Okay, you can feed Carrot all the carrots he wants."
I'll just smile and nod.
How many days do you want to rent a room?
You know Pebble's answer.
Because like conceivably, I mean, you guys could go back to Rivengard. It's not that far away that you have to stay. Or you certainly, I mean, you might want to stay. It's not like you could stay.
I mean, I'd probably look at like 2 or 3 nights, and then after that, because honestly, after like 3 days of a carnival, I'd probably be done.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, this isn't like a big amusement park either, so it's not like you have to. It's not Disney World where you like need a week to see everything. It's like you can probably see everything in about a day, easy.
Yeah, Grix's main concern was not going back in the dark if we stayed late tonight. So, I mean, whether it's 1, 2, 3 days, whatever you want, like you said, we could go back tomorrow morning and then still come back here if we wanted to and have a room.
Yeah, I'd probably look for like 2 nights at first.
Okay. So if you want, so it'll be 2 gold per room per night. So it'll be 4 per day, and then so 8 gold total if you wanted 2 rooms for 2 days.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that'll include the stable as well, and food for the asses.
Oh wait, you have a donkey too, Pebble?
No, I was just saying.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
she has a Shetland pony.
Yep.
Best pony.
So another term like Shetland pony is a thing that wouldn't exist, you know.
But yeah, so once we get the room settled and the horses and animals stabled, I would head out to the carnival to try to catch up with them.
So it's probably about 5 silver to get into the carnival. I don't know if you guys really want to. If you'd like, you can certainly mark that down off of your character sheet.
I'll just pay 2 gold to cover it.
Okay. So you get tickets and everything to go in. One of the first things that you come across, you see this sort of a rail thin kind of man wearing a worn sort of velvet coat, and you can see that he's leaning on like this hammer in front of like this 10-foot tall painted wooden cutout of like a hill giant, and like nailed to the floor giant is a brass bell, and then it's like connected to a metal bar. And you can see as people pass by, you know, the man is like raising the hammer up above his head, and he like slams it down onto the black sledge, catapult little weight up onto the bar and hitting the bell on the giant's forehead. And you can hear he's like, yelling at everybody, yeah, step right up, folks. Test your strength against the mighty hill giant of Borbo. If a nothing weakling like myself can strike that bell, imagine how easy it'll be for you. It's only 2 copper pieces to win a prize.
Does he actually look like a weakling?
He does, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
he
okay.
He's like super thin, like.
Okay.
Verlin, do you want to give it a shot? Or
Grix just starts laughing when she says that.
Grix, just try it.
I believe Grix should probably go first, then Pebble.
I can do it.
As everybody's kind of like, pushing Grix a little bit, he's like, you there! You look strong and strapping. What say you give it a try? Step on up.
Grix kind of like turns beet red and kind of just starts looking around. How big is this hammer compared to me?
It's pretty big. I mean, like
Okay.
if
Would
the
I
hammer,
even be able to lift it?
Yeah, you'd be able to lift it, but I mean, like if you think of like the hammer sitting on, like the hammer head, like sitting on the ground, the handle is probably taller than you, but not by a lot.
Would you like some of that potion of courage now, Grix?
He kind of looks and he kind of like, not like he still looks extremely embarrassed and stuff, but he kind of like straightens up a little bit. He goes, I think I can do this. And I'm gonna walk up.
Before he walks up, I'm gonna cast guidance on him.
Yeah, and as I'm walking up, before I grab the hammer, I'm gonna just say, oh, "One moment, please," and I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna cast enlarge on myself.
Okay.
We're gonna burn
And
through
I will
spells.
double in size. I don't even think I'd be able to lift a hammer.
Why do you have a Constitution saving throw on that?
Because if it's an unwilling creature that I'm trying to shrink or something.
Oh, gotcha. So the hill giant, the cutout hill giant, has to roll a Constitution.
Yeah. So I will become twice my size, and I will have advantage on a strength check. So what is it? Athletics?
It is strength.
Okay. So all right. So just pure strength. I will have advantage on it. I'll grab the hammer and kind of take a big gulp and
roll a d4.
Roll a d4 on top of that.
Oh, true. 14.
So 14. So as you see, it goes up probably about halfway. The little weight sort of goes up halfway, and he's like, "Oh, that was great. That was great." He said, and then he sort of trying to, give you advice, like, "Oh, it needs to be a fluid sweeping motion like this," and he takes it and he swings it down, and it dings. So make sure you put your back into it. That helps. And
Grix
also,
throws 2 more copper at him and grabs the hammer back.
Okay. It's like, make sure hit it in the center. That's the sweet spot.
All right, I am going to with that.
With advantage.
21.
You don't have
21.
guidance on the. You don't have guidance.
Oh no, I would. Yeah, no. So just 20.
Just 20. Well,
yes.
A 20 actually dings the bell, and you see he looks really kind of surprised. Like he's like, "Whoa, well, yeah, that was great. That was great." And he starts clapping, and then like getting, there's some people that are sort of milling about too, like waiting their turn, or whatever, and they're clapping as well. And he says, "Oh yeah, so here's your prize." And so he actually gives you a ticket. This is a ticket that you would normally have to pay for, but he gives you a ticket to see the nightly performance of Tormund's Show of Wonders.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
I'll kind of walk back to her and I'll hand her the hammer and I'll just say, "Do you want to be big?"
No, I can do it. I'm sure I can.
All right, then I'm just gonna drop the spell and I'll go back to my normal stealth.
Okay. I don't have bricks. I don't know how to make the gold smaller.
Hey, let me out.
Just
I'll give him 2
give him
copper.
one of those pieces. Okay, I was gonna say just give him one of those pieces and it'll give you change.
Okay. And Pebble will now take this hammer, that is, I guess, taller than her, and attempt it.
17. It does not go up all the way.
Grix is going to knowingly take a few steps back.
Pebble's like, I can try this again. Don't worry, I can get it this time.
I'll pay for it again.
Takes a couple more steps backwards.
This Pebble is just like hyperventilating at this point. As
Pebble.
she.
Pebble.
And
Oh no!
She blows up.
She blows up.
And
In
she
the
kills
middle
Civis.
of a crowd.
oh god.
Oh no! Why do I keep rolling ones?
Did I take enough steps back to be 20 feet away?
Probably not.
Fuck.
So,
Yeah, I'll be taking it.
Actually, Matt, completely random question. Since I know this, and I know what happens when she gets angry, is it like a spell effect? Like, can I counterspell this?
Can I counterspell a rage?
Well, not her rage, just the magical effect from it.
is the counterspell a reaction?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know why that says one action. It's a reaction. If trust me, I completely understand if I can't, but it's just me kind of thinking, like, knowing what she does every now and then, just kind of being ready for it.
I mean, it is magical. I don't know. It's not necessarily a spell.
I mean, I guess the argument would be if you think it's equal to or less than a 3rd level spell.
It's a fireball detonated on itself.
It's not
Yeah.
really. I mean, it's much weaker than that.
I mean, I guess because with the Wild Soul Sorcerer, I think that specifically states you cast a fireball centered on yourself.
This doesn't.
I don't.
but
Yeah, I don't know how this one's worded.
this is where you unleash an explosion in a 20-foot radius centered on yourself. Creatures in the area, including you, must make a dexterity saving throw, and you roll a number of d10s equal to your rage damage. A creature takes fire damage equal to the total on a failed save, or half as much on a damage, or half as much damage on a successful one.
Yeah, so I guess it's a you call on whether it can be countered or not.
It is completely up to you. Like, it's just Griggs kind of knows what could happen from personal up close and experience, and he was kind of backing away, waiting for it. So, if possible, sure. If not, completely understandable.
I mean, do we want to murder half the people here?
That's kind of the reason I said it. I was like, I'm gonna give Matt an out so he doesn't have to put us in jail right now.
How many D10 is Pebble rolling?
2.
2.
But don't most like just regular people, like commoners, have like 1 HP?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So
Here, let me look real quick. I didn't even have any of these things pulled up because I wasn't expecting to roll dex saves for the carnies.
I don't. Oh man, because 2 it minimums at 2, which is outright killing civvies, right?
mm-hmm.
Commoners have an armor class of 10, and they have 4 hit points.
So I guess Pebble should first roll damage to see where we're at.
I can do that.
Please roll low.
Oh wow, everyone dies. This doesn't stop.
So this is what happens in the bad timeline. Let's get back to our regular viewing in the good timeline.
At least you didn't fucking summon dark spirits and suck everyone's life force.
Yeah, because this is so much better.
I mean,
I was hoping she would like fly or something. That's an option.
yeah,
Instead-
but you don't get good options.
No. Instead, I explode all the time.
For the sake of for this, I'm gonna say you were able to counterspell it.
Okay.
I won't say that that's necessarily the permanent rule, but
no,
in this
absolutely.
case, we're just gonna let that happen because
Okay.
that probably would have just ruined the entire session.
I mean, you can say, considering that he spent like 2 actions stepping back, he kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't. I mean, she's not casting a spell, but I mean, we're gonna let it happen because.
Oh, this would be interesting. The entire carnival gets ruined 5 minutes into it because Pebble
She's been
rages.
so excited the entire time.
Exactly,
She's
and
the one who
then she
destroys
just
it.
murders everyone, and
It's
then
labeled as a terrorist attack at Trockford.
Oh,
she's
Pebble can never go
executed
back
for-
to the circus.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're raging, but he was able to, keep you from exploding. So yeah, that didn't work. And he's continuing to give basically the same sort of advice and everything.
I just see her like slamming the hammer repeatedly onto this.
You do wow. I mean, you're not strength based.
I'm running out of copper here.
Holy shit!
Please, is a 19 enough? I'm running out.
It does it. It is a 20. You have to get a 20 to ring the bell.
Okay, I'm keeping count of how many times.
Okay,
I've been
after a
taking it out.
while, I'm gonna go up and cast guidance.
1, 2, 3.
So you don't have to use it on the next one. You just have to use it within a minute, I believe, or maybe it is the next one. I'm not sure.
Yay!
Jesus.
Finally. That was the
Nice.
10th one, so the rage would have ended after that. If each strength check is an action. Unless it ended because she didn't actually attack anything, unless this is counted as attack. Anyway,
I mean,
you
to
did
be
it.
fair, you've just attached my coin purse.
Yeah, as I say, it probably would have been cheaper just to buy the ticket that you just won. It's kind of the same thing as like when you play those carnival games and you like win a teddy bear that cost like $2, but you spent $47 to win it. But yeah, so you do win another ticket to go see the show of wonders.
Pebble is very pleased with herself. She's all smug looking as she walks away from the game. I did it!
Grix
Yeah.
kind of looks at her like, Pebble, try not to get angry like that again. I can't. Please.
I didn't explode this time.
Oh.
Oh, you did.
It-
We saw the fire.
And I'm gonna kind of get close to her and just like whisper a little bit, like, you would have, but I stopped it. I don't know if I could do that again. You
Should we
would've
try it
hurt
again? We should try it again one more time. Just to
You
see
would
if
have
it'll
hurt
work.
a lot of people.
Excuse me, sir. I'll just pay for 3 goals and that's it.
Fair enough. On a side note, this is again outside of game. I just got this notification that popped up on my phone, and I know that you guys are all on the East Coast, except for you, Rob, which was you're on the far East Coast, I guess. There's a freeze warning for tomorrow. It's going to be 28 degrees,
I have my windows wide open right now with the fan on.
which is for you non-Americans, that's -2 degrees Celsius.
I think that's not too cold.
Well, it's below freezing in May, which is just crazy. I'm sure probably in Canada it's going to be even colder because I did see that there was supposed to be like some big crazy like snowstorm in like Maine and stuff. So anyway,
Let's see.
Yeah, so I'll just...
The lowest it's supposed to get for me is still above freezing, so maybe not in Connecticut. Hopefully.
I just got a big notification on my phone. I wondered what it was. It's like, oh wow, it's going to be because I got a freeze warning for tomorrow.
Yep, no one. Where
That's
are you?
over here. Yeah, so Verlin, if you'd like to make your
Yeah, I'll attempt to do it one-handed. Just pick it up and drive it down.
Okay.
That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. So now.
all right. Does Caden want to give it a shot?
Sure, why not? I'll give it a few smacks.
You're much stronger than I, Pebble.
Yeah! You didn't end up doing it. I did. And
There
Griff.
you go. So he nails it on the third try. So everybody but the strongest guy in the party has won a ticket to the Show of Wonders.
I'll probably just end up buying one.
Yeah, it's probably. I mean, again, it's probably a couple silver to buy the ticket.
After we're all done, can I go up to the guy and with the ticket in my hand and say, "Oh, excuse me, what is this? What happens in the show? Is it like a play?"
Something like that. You'll just have to go and see.
He kind of just nods and tucks the ticket away.
Let's go to the next game. Pebble runs.
So you guys can actually see off to the side. So this is sort of like the first game, but you can see the pleasure wheel, and you can see the way that this is working. It's actually not done. And oddly enough, this is actually, when I was looking it up, this is how the pleasure wheel was done back in the 1600s. Not with half ogres but in this case, you can see that there are half ogres that are sort of straining against a metal crank that is actually turning this large wooden wheel. So it is not a tinkerer developed wheel. I'm not to say that those don't exist, but this one in particular is actually done by these half ogres sort of turning this crank that's spinning the wheel. That's actually, like, when I was looking it up, the original one in Bulgaria was pulled by strong men that sort of did this exact same thing. And you can see that they're sort of behind the wheel. You can see the colorful sort of carriages and stuff. And you can see that there are people, that are riding the wheel, and then they're sort of like, pointing at stuff as they're going up, and gasping and sort of like, cheering and stuff. And you can see that one of the carnival workers is yelling everybody over there to come ride the Ferris wheel, and he's only 4 coppers. See that he's a pretty short looking guy. He's got sort of this long mangy red hair. He's probably a human based on what you can tell, but he's pretty short.
Are you ready to ride that now, or do you want to come back to it later, Pebble?
Pebble is doing everything in order from, I guess, the way it, like, first
Like
thing
whatever
she
you walk
sees.
past.
Yeah.
It going as you're walking through everything. This is the next in line, basically.
Okay, then yep, she's going on the Ferris wheel. Okay, Grix, it's time.
Do you want the potion of courage yet?
I can do this. And he looks green, and he's gonna go follow Pebble.
We should probably stand back.
You should stand under till you can catch him if he falls.
That's not what I'm worried about.
Pebble will go and just throw a gold at the guy, and then you get excited.
So it's probably about 50 feet up. That's the height of the Ferris wheel. It's moving pretty slow. I mean, Ferris wheels in general move pretty slow, but this is slower than normal. So I mean, there's no sort of speed involved. But it goes without a hitch. I mean, there's nothing really, like, you don't win any prizes or anything like that. But I mean, you do see a pretty cool view of Rivengard in the distance. It's fun, but it's not like, nothing bad happens or anything like that. It's not moving fast enough. As long as you're not like super afraid of heights, it's not gonna make you sick or anything.
I don't know. Pebble might be rocking the carriage back and forth.
Oh yeah. If Pebble sees that it's pretty slow, once she gets closer to the top, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a nice view. I can't really see the village where I used to, but I can make it more fun. Rocks the thing back and forth.
Make a constitution check.
His eyes are just closed the entire time.
Which sometimes makes it worse. If you got like vertigo, it'll make it way worse.
Constitution saving throw.
Yeah, you're all right. The most, like, I suppose, like, interesting thing about this is that you're probably none of you have seen half ogres all that often, so they're almost more intriguing than the wheel itself. They seem to be like dressed in sort of colorful, ill-fitting clothing, not saying anything, but just sort of basically walking around in a circle, pushing on this wheel.
Once she starts rocking, Grix kind of just tightens his grip and kind of like just starts breathing like in through his nose, out through his mouth, trying to calm himself down.
Grix, you look better if you open up your eyes, and then you can see the ground below you. And then you can see the town, and Rivengard, and the harbor. But beyond that, not much.
What's the odds he throws up on that thing, Caden?
50-50. Probably 80-20 if Pebble rocks the carrot.
Oh, and there she goes.
He still hasn't thrown up yet.
Impressive for someone who's scared of heights.
I don't have any way to make it worse.
I mean, we could just throw liquid up there, see if that makes him throw up.
I don't know if I could reach that height with the liquid.
I like how you guys are just trying to be dicks.
It's a carnival. You just mess with people. That's the whole point of them, right? That and the small chance that you die.
Grix will just kind of like, he's still not going to open his eyes. He's just going to be like, all right, tell me when we're back at the bottom.
We're not back at the bottom until you open your eyes.
Pebble, I think he wants you to shake it more.
Okay.
Oh, you're
And-
not up here.
I could have shouted that.
You could probably shout it. I mean, you can hear it. I mean, it's probably each go lasts maybe about 15 turns on the wheel.
Pebble will start jumping up and down and trying to make it shake as possible. And she's like, I gave the guy at the bottom 1 gold. That's a lot more than a copper. I can ride this thing a whole lot until you open your eyes.
As the shaking starts getting worse and worse and worse, he goes, oh, fine. And he opens his eyes and... Yep, he starts... But he just holds it all in his mouth, and it looks terrible. His eyes like start watering and everything, and he's just like gives her a thumbs up and tells her to asks her to like motion her to sit back down.
She does, but she's still like swaying back and forth. You did it! I told you.
And he kind of just looks at her and then quickly looks over the other side and just spits out the vomit that was in his mouth.
There it is.
Yep, I did
Better
it.
than swallowing it, I guess.
I guess our next stop is going to be something to wash his mouth out with.
Ale.
Yeah, and there's plenty of food and drink and
Yeah.
the like.
Well, maybe we can get something a bit stronger. Maybe it'll loosen him up.
Yeah, agreed. So once they get back down, I'll head towards some stand that's serving alcohol and or food.
All right. So yeah, you see plenty of places to grab stuff, and it's your sort of carnival food. It's
Fried
terribly unhealthy. It's everything's
sticks
fried.
and-
It's like fried potatoes and sausages and there's beer and one of the things that in the distance you can kind of hear is wild animals, basically. So you hear, I guess, I'm not even sure. I guess everybody could roll a nature check if you'd like to see if you have any idea specifically of if you would even recognize the sounds of these creatures. So Caden doesn't really get too much of it. Verlin's pretty sure he can pick out each of uh, the different sounds. Pebble and Grix, you get a few of them that would recognize. So you hear like a squealing sound, like a boar. So Grix and Pebble would recognize that. You hear sort of like a more of a growl type sound, which most of you would recognize. Sounds like a bear. And then Verlin picks up on a few creatures that the others probably don't. You, Verlin, you hear what you think is probably an owl bear, and also a big cat. You're not exactly sure what type of big cat it is, whether it be like a lion or a tiger or that type of thing. But it's a big cat roaring. And then I'll even say with the 21, there's probably another sound that nobody recognizes from the creature, because you can kind of see off in the distance. They're like sort of like fenced in areas where essentially it's sort of like a little zoo type thing where there are exotic animals that are being shown for people to see. The sort of large circular arena type tent thing that I mentioned earlier is where you're hearing the big cat sound from. But yeah, you anytime that you hear like a big loud roar or whatever, you can hear some like people cheering or whatever. So yeah,
Oh,
carnival animals, that kind of stuff.
it seems they've got a animal display in the tent. Should we pick up some food and head in?
Yeah, I want to see everything here.
I mean, I even believe they have an owl bear.
I don't think I've ever seen one of those up close.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what they got.
I can hear a big cat, but I can't narrow it down. So, should be
So
interesting.
yeah, you guys, the you're actually not in. So they're doing like shows essentially, and it's sort of full. So but you can kind of like move to the side and kind of see in, and you do see. I guess, I mean, I don't know how any of you would have. I don't know that any of you would ever have seen one in person. But I would say through your studies, most of you, Pebble maybe not, but the big cat is a lion, and it is a male lion, and it has so you see the mane and everything. But yeah, it's not native to Agamar, so it wouldn't be something that you would have seen in the wild or anything like that. So even though you're not able to get in right now, they do have various showings throughout the day, but currently they're in the middle of one, and you didn't get in at the start. So, but there's a lion. And then sort of like off in the distance, you can kind of, as you're walking through and getting the food and everything, you can sort of see like the over by the jousting area where you can see sort of armored horses. You can see, it looks like there are the events like where another game where people are trying to catch a boar. So have you ever seen like when people like try and catch a greased pig? It's kind of like that. So like there's like a muddy sort of pit where they've got like a pig running around and everybody's like trying to catch it. So that's where the squealing pig comes from. And then you do see an owl bear and an actual bear, both of which probably the owl bear more so even than the regular bear doesn't look particularly healthy at this point. Not unsurprisingly, I suppose. And then the animal that you are not familiar with, and I guess maybe you guys could ask around or whatever, but basically they have a camel, which nobody would have seen. And probably not even, people wouldn't be too familiar with them even through study because Agamar doesn't really have any deserts, which is where camels would be most useful. So it's cool, and they're offering camel rides. So it is a double humped camel. I know there's a name for that, but I don't know what it is. There's single hump and there's double, but I don't remember what the difference is. But this one has two, so you sort of sit in between the humps when you're riding it around, and it's sort of just slowly walking around, looking totally bored. And mostly it's just kids riding around on it. I know, like, I'm from Cincinnati. With Cincinnati Zoo, I remember as a kid riding the camels.
The one idea Grix comes up with, and he looks at Pebble and says, "You should try to catch the pig."
Okay. Yeah, I think I can do that.
Is it like a competition where you like gotta wait to get in, like pay to get in, or is it kind of just like whoever wants to hop in the pen could go in?
Yeah, I mean it's there's not a big line or anything, but it is an event that you can win prizes for. It's obviously not an easy game to play. You would do a dexterity check to see if you can catch up to it, and then probably a grapple to see if you can hang on to it.
Well, Pebble, if you wish, we can compete against each other.
Okay, I'm sure I'll win.
I'm sure you
Pebble,
will.
try not to get mad again, please. We don't want to hurt anyone in case you And he kind of like makes a hand explosion.
Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm not gonna get mad.
So it would be a dexterity or acrobatics, I guess, to try and catch it, and then it would be a athletics check to see if you could grapple it.
Well, for me, acrobatics and dex is the same, so let's see if I can catch a boar. No.
Let me see here. Where did that go?
Oh God.
Now the question is, can she hold on?
I mean, you might have gotten all your bad strength rolls out of the way already.
No, I don't know. Maybe.
Give me a second here. I gotta pull up the boar's character sheet so that I can do the opposing rolls here for a grapple. So you're definitely able to keep up with it for sure, and then it is it's athletics to see if you can grapple it. Versus
I think it's versus the
Strength.
boar's athletics or acrobatics.
Or acrobatics. Yep, that is correct. Let's see. So basically, strength or dex. Well, it actually doesn't have great either. But I rolled a natural 20.
And just because I forgot to earlier, I'm gonna roll my 2d20s for my importance. An 8 and a 12.
So you're able to catch up to it, and you're completely covered in mud. Because again, like this is like specifically this little area is watered down so that it's mud to make it that much more fun to slide around in the mud with a pig. So you catch up to it and you grab a hold, and it's covered in mud and you're covered in mud, and you just kind of slip off and then fall face first into the mud.
Pebble gets up laughing. Can I try again? Do I get more turns?
Yeah, I mean it's 2 copper again for And there's not like there's not that many people that are all that interested in getting covered in mud and chasing after a pig. So you can continue trying.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll go with that.
Pebble tightens her ponytail.
Could I
did you?
wait for Pebble to chase after it and just wait for her to chase it towards me?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can kind of work together if you'd like. Okay, so actually it rolled an 8. So Pebble's able to catch up to it.
Ooh.
Unbelievably, I rolled another natural 20. So you slide off of it once again. Verlin, as it's sliding, running away from her, you're able to kind of like get over to the side of where it's going. So I'll let you do a strength check as well to see if, as it's running away from her, you sort of cornered it and you're able to like make a grab at it.
Yeah, let's see how well that goes. I'm not rolling shit tonight.
Yeah, and it rolled a 16 that time, so it still would have broken free from her first one as well. So
Come on, Pebble. Don't let that boar show you up.
I will not. I'm going to catch this pig.
Yeah, I'll give
all
it
right,
a go as well.
Yep, you're able to. Nope.
Oh no.
It rolled a 12. So,
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
So on the first one, this is I'm not making this up. I rolled another natural 20.
Good. In case
but-
there's anything fighting us, get them all out of the way.
But Verlin, so it was a 9 versus a 20, and it has a +1 to strength, so it's a 21. Like I've rolled a 21 3 times now. But Verlin, against your 16, it rolls an 8, so you're actually able to grab it.
Yay! Now I just need to make sure I can hold on to it.
Yes. There you go. It cannot beat that. Literally cannot beat a 25. So you are
Pebble
able to.
just crosses her arms.
Here you go, Pebble. And he'll hand Pebble the ball.
She tries to grab it.
Do a strength check, see if it. Because I mean, they're medium size, so it's bigger than you.
Strength check?
Could it be assistance? Considering I'm oh Jesus, handing it to her.
Yeah, I mean, like you can tell that as you're sort of like letting it go, she's like starting to fall backwards a little bit, and you can kind of like pick it back up to make sure that she doesn't, just topple over.
Grix? Grix,
Yes, yes.
make me bigger!
For this, okay, and yeah, I will enlarge her, and I will have 1 level 2 spell left.
Okay, let the pig go. I'm gonna catch it this time. This time I'm bigger.
I'll just look at the guy first and say, I've already caught the pig, so I release it. I'll jump out the mud.
Alrighty. Give me a second here. Gotta check on something.
Why am I concerned that we're going to get another explosion in the mud pit?
Is the mud pit, like 40-meter diameter, and she's in the. So
No,
the
I'm
only
just.
thing she can kill is the pig. Actually, she already
Instant
has
bacon.
advantage on strength, although she still might rage.
That's what I'm worried about. If she creates some instant bacon.
She'll double rage, double advantage.
Hold on. Sorry, this is not related to the game actually. I got a text. I got to reply to this real quick.
Yep.
I will be right back. Also.
Yeah, if you need to get a drink or go to the bathroom, whatever, go ahead.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure 24 catches a pig.
Now the question is, can she hold on?
We'll find out with the athletics check.
All right.
Yeah, so I think we all think the 24 is definitely going to catch the pigs, whether she holds on.
Yeah, that definitely catches it. So I'm actually trying to buy a condo. So my realtor was texting me. That was what I was distracted by.
Nice.
I have a house right now, and I don't want to do yard work anymore. And this house that I'm in is built in 1955, and it needs a lot of work that I don't want to spend the money on. So I'm trying to get rid of it so that I can buy a condo and then just not have to worry about yard work ever again.
I mean, that's fair.
I can't tell if the whole lockdown thing will be useful or a hindrance to buying new places.
Well, unfortunately, it's twofold. The prices. So the last time there was a recession, housing prices dropped considerably. Currently, in the United States, the availability of homes is much lower than the demand for them, so prices are not going down because of the COVID-19. However, the good part about it is that if you can find something, the interest rates are ridiculously low. So when I bought my house originally in like 2006, like my interest rate was like 7 something, which at the time was really, really good. But the interest rates now are like 2 something. So that's really good. And it rolled a 12, so you are not able to hold on.
Okay, Pebble tries again. If she doesn't get it this time, I'm afraid that bad things might happen.
You don't have a counterspell left, right?
I do. I have 2 of them left, actually.
So it can't beat a 22. 21 is the max it can possibly get.
And you're still going to have it.
Roll a 16, so.
Oh no. I rolled something other than a 1.
Is she still trying to catch this pig?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
she is.
So this one, it won't kill anyone. Strong winds blast out from you. Each creature within 10 feet of you must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed away from you a number of feet equal to 5 times your constitution modifier and then fall prone. What's your
I mean, to be
It's
fair,
+3.
yeah, I walked away to wash myself down.
What's your constitution modifier?
+3. So 15.
What's your DC?
14.
Okay, so you're not able to catch the boar because it flies 15 feet away from you.
But it then falls in the ground.
And then it falls prone.
She rushes at it and then jumps on it.
And for the sake of this, these actually, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20. So I'm going to say that you were in the center of these little rings. It's not really a ring; it's more of like a really long rectangle. So the sort of arena that you're in is about 20 feet by 45 feet. 45 feet being sort of the length of it, and 20 feet being the width. So I'm going to say that you were just in the center with the pig. So the pig is the only one that had to get blown away 15 feet. And then you're able to run over there and jump on it. And then
Well, she probably shot mud at the audience.
well, yeah, I mean, like the people would certainly be covered in mud, and which is probably a good thing in that, like, it would have been sort of confusing as to what happened, because everybody would see the mud splash up, and they would have been sort of distracted, trying to get out of the way or getting their eyes, covered in mud. So it's sort of like difficult to tell exactly what happened. And then when everybody sort of like looks back, they can see that she's like just sitting on top of the pig. And everybody's sort of confused as about what exactly just happened. But yeah,
I did it!
The pig is too scared to move to even try to fight away anymore.
And so this one actually does have little prizes. So you actually do get a stuffed boar. So you basically get like a teddy bear that's a little boar. That's the prize for this.
Verlin was before. Pebble
Yes.
is ecstatic. She runs to Greg. She's like, I did it! I've got this.
He gives a thumbs up.
I would suggest covering that one in mud, but you might not be able to hold on to it, Pebble.
No, it's okay. I caught it.
And Verlin, you also were able to win a
Yeah, I've added it
Stuffed
to the
boar.
sheet.
stuffed boar. You both get to add that to your sheet.
I'm gonna name mine Mud.
So the next things you guys see is a man that's sort of yelling out that you all are well, actually, I think let me see. Since he stepped away, let me take a look at his character sheet real quick.
I think Verlon's still just eating a bunch of fried food while Pebble's getting excited.
Yeah, I'd probably be enjoying some of the food or sweet.
Yeah, so I mean, they got, again, there's like candied apples and all the kind of the crazy, carnival food that you
funnel cake.
Yeah, all that, all the cakes and sugars and the Grix is able to do prestidigitation to clean up as well. That's cantrip, so they're not just covered in it all the time. So as you guys are eating and that kind of stuff, the next thing that you see is a another like barker doing these games and saying, you've heard the stories, folks. The mysterious flumps, strange jellyfish-like creatures that float through the air. Well, here they are, my friends. 3 coppers get you 5 darts to try and pop the flumps. Step right up and give it a try. And so, if you guys are not familiar, a flump is an actual. I think Liam on Critical Role has mentioned them before, but that's a flump. You can. These are not real animals that you're. Basically, they are sort of inflated little membranes. They're kind of like balloons that are painted white. They have sort of thin strips of yarn dangling from them with like crude eyes painted on the surfaces. They're sort of like dangling from like thumbtacks that are set up on a cork board. So basically, you're throwing at something that doesn't look. That looks similar to this, I guess. Not really, but if a kindergartner was making crafts, that's kind of what it looks like. So you get 5 darts. For 3 copper, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, same.
Pebble will as well.
So let's see. So the board itself, you have to stand 25 feet back, which means that with a dart you have disadvantage to throw. And again, so this is a carnival, and so you notice. I'm not even gonna make you roll for it. Particularly, like Verlin notices this first. Probably the darts themselves are a little bit blunted. Probably just from the fact that they've been used so much. So you can kind of get the idea that like they're making this as pretty difficult, So you're trying to pop these things with dull darts from disadvantaged distance. So yeah, you can tell it's carnies being carnies, basically.
I have a hand crossbow. Can I use that?
No.
Hmm. Okay, I'll do it. And I will beat it, and then I can use my hand crossbow.
Still no.
I'd like to see you try to stop her. I'll just kind of egg them on and get my. So, what is it to throw darts? Is it dex or is it strength?
Thrown
Okay, next, sorry.
strength.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, with disadvantage.
Okay. I think the best thing I had there was a 10.
Not enough to pop any of these balloons.
Pebble, why don't you try?
Okay. Is Pebble still big?
It lasts for, I think, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah,
Okay,
so no.
probably not then. Okay. Probably not.
Alright, I'll
13.
chuck my 5, but I still have doubts.
$14.
So yeah, a 14 does actually pop 2 balloons.
Hey, look at the big man over here.
I mean, the irony is I also put this on the sheet in case it was a damage thing.
So you only pop 2. And you do have to pop 3 to win a prize.
I'll give it another go for giggles.
I will too. Slaps down a gold.
So now it's a 14.
Maybe we could receive blessings from our friend.
I mean, we're already blessing people for hitting a bell. What's the harm in this? So whoever's up, I'll cast guidance on them, and then I'll cast guidance on the next one.
Yeah, so I'll chuck another 5.
I'm not gonna keep casting it, so you get to just add it to one of the rolls.
All right, that's 3. 22. Oh no.
No,
Well,
just
if he
13.
if he adds the blessed die to the 13,
Yeah, you would. Yeah, because you can't not roll a 1. So you would get 3. And funny enough, this may alter everybody else's decision. What you win is a ticket to the Show of Wonders, which you didn't have, but everybody else did.
Pebble still goes for it.
I will cast bless on her.
That was a wasted bless.
Holy shit!
Her guidance.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna help anything.
No.
Pebble tries again because she threw a gold at him one more time.
So with the 1, you had to roll 2 1s now. You basically the dude is having to duck out of the way as you're throwing them.
Pebble, this is
Hmm?
probably not your forte.
Well, I could be really big again. Or, now hear me out. What if I get a little bit angry, but I don't explode?
Do I need to pick you up and take you away?
No, the Ferris wheel is taller than you. I'll try one more time. I'm sure I can do it this time.
Just one more.
I will get her change back from the guy to put towards the other games.
She aims a dart for the guy.
And still misses.
And still misses.
She's just breathing quickly, trying to calm herself down.
Okay, have a fried sausage.
Can I have that as well as, like, a candied apple?
Sure.
Okay.
So, the next thing that you guys are that come across is the House of Fun. So you can see a large sort of pasteboard clown with its arms outstretched. It's hanging above this awning of this sort of hastily built structure that's made out of like glass and wood. And between the clown's sort of outstretched arms, you see the words that says "House of Fun," been written over the awning. And then again, you have somebody, step right up, folks, into the House of Fun. Only 6 copper pieces gives you the experience of a lifetime. Come and try it for yourself.
What's inside the House of Fun?
There's all kinds of things. There's the spinning hallway, the ballroom, the netted bridge, and the hall of mirrors.
I can't even imagine all that. Okay, let's go.
I'll follow.
I will as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so within this the House of Fun, so the first thing that you come across is the spinning hallway, which is a like cylindrical hallway that's painted with like alternating red and yellow and diagonal sort of stripes to kind of make you a little queasy and confused. And get the idea that like probably somewhere somebody's turning this thing so that it's kind of spinning. It's about 15 feet long. So as you attempt to move through it, you do need to succeed on a acrobatics check.
Man, how do normal people handle this?
All right. So everybody but Grix is able to make it through. Verlin's a little bit unsteady. He just barely gets through without slipping. Grix, however, falls completely prone and almost gets turned upside down as it's spinning. He weighs so little, he kind of goes up and then kind of drops back down a little bit. So somebody's probably going to have to kind of like go and pick him up so that he doesn't.
I just start crawling.
Yeah, so you can see that he's sort of crawling and then he's kind of like slipping down. It's actually pretty funny to witness as he's sort of like scrambling across, and it keeps like sliding and falling down.
Do the hand
Pebble
there,
starts
Grix.
laughing.
This is just the way I do it. It's fine.
I'll go back in and pick him up.
I do
Pebble.
not let that happen.
Pebble is laughing. Pebble has forgotten about the whole dark thing.
So he's pretty close to the end. So I mean, it's not like he's really picking you up. He's just sort of like, picking you up enough to just get you out of the wheel, essentially, so that you can kind of stand up. And so, having successfully made your way through the spinning hallway, you find yourselves in the ballroom. This is about a 20-foot by 20-foot room. It's filled with balls that are made of kind of like paper mache, basically, and they're painted bright colors. So as you attempt to cross the room to get to the other side, you need to make an athletics check in order to basically swim through all of these paper mache balls, basically.
Are they like covering the gnomes' heads?
It's pretty deep, so yeah, I mean, you have to kind of... So actually, everybody but Caden is able to make it through without too much of an incident.
As soon as Grix gets to the end, he turns around and looks for where Verlin is. He goes, do you need me to come back and help you?
As soon as I get out, I just pick him up and throw him back in.
Fair enough.
All right, so make another athletics check, see if you can get back out. After
Oh,
you back in.
God. I got this. Easy.
So on his second attempt, Caden is able to make his way out. He struggled a little bit. So I mean, again, this is what it's more of an annoyance than anything. But the next thing, as you clear the ballroom, is to get to the netted bridge. And so you can see that there's a net made of thick ropes that it's probably a 45-degree angle to a platform that's about 10 feet above you. So you would need to do a athletics check to climb the net.
I swear to God, if you kill me on another bridge.
I'm just gonna jump it.
Right? Can I like look at this thing and see if there's a smart way to go about this so I don't gotta use muscle?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's actually, as you sort of get there, you realize that this is probably more designed for kids. So even the gnomes, like, it's not like super difficult. The DC is like very, very low, so everybody's able to actually climb up there. This one's actually pretty easy. So everybody is actually able to make that. And then finally, you're in the Hall of Mirrors. And this is a room with like a labyrinth of glass walls and mirrors that are sort of set at 90-degree angles. So navigating through the room actually is going to require 3 successful survival checks.
Before we go in, because of all of Grick's taunting, I'm gonna cast Bane on him.
I want to counterspell, but it's not worth it. All right, and is this group checks or is it individual?
Individual.
Okay, so 3 survival.
3 survival checks.
Yeah, you gotta make a charisma saving throw first.
Oh, charisma. All right. No, I don't. I did not pass it.
Okay, so you gotta take a minus 1d4 on all your survival checks.
All right, so that's a 17 first.
Which is a success.
I'm gonna fail that one.
Yep.
Probably gonna fail that one.
Yep.
So I failed through 2, and I did it in 5. I'm assuming at least.
Yeah. So it takes you a little bit, but you're able to get through.
God damn. Did that 13 get me through, or do I gotta roll again?
A 13 doesn't. Yes, it does. 13 gets you. So you're able to get through.
Do you want to go next, Pebble?
Sure. Pebble is really good at survival.
Holy crap.
I'm sorry, that 0 means you went the wrong way.
Well, no, that's the thing. So here's the deal, right? So if you fail by more than 5, you actually get so turned around that you end up back at the beginning. So you get lost, and then you find yourself standing right at the start again.
Oh, so
Oh.
Grix would have gone back to the start, right? I don't know what the DC is.
Oh, hi, Verlin.
It's a DC 10.
It's that way.
Okay, just a second.
She turns right back around and sees.
Oh, hi, Verlin.
It's that way.
Just a second.
And she's right back around again.
It's that way, Pebble.
I'm sure I'll get it this time.
You're back at it.
She's back again.
Pebble,
You're just gonna hear
Pebble,
an
come
explosion.
here. Pebble, come here.
I was going that way, but then I saw myself, so I went the other way, and then I kept going. I don't know which way to go anymore.
Come on, hold my hand. I'll go
I'm
through.
trying not to explode, but it's hard.
I'll take a hand and we'll start walking through. There's 3.
Yeah, there you go.
So Verlon did it in the least amount of time, leading Pebble out.
Grix, I almost exploded, but I didn't. It's okay.
Very good.
I'm very good at finding the start, but I wasn't good at finding the end.
So, I didn't do this because we were doing it sort of individually, so it was kind of difficult to do this, but sort of we'll retroactively kind of do this. Everybody roll a perception check. All right, so everybody but Caden, as you guys were navigating through the Hall of Mirrors, you spot kind of a ghostly apparition of a bearded man in one of the mirrors. The man is dressed in sort of like tattered furs and leather, appears to be standing behind you. Like when you're looking in the mirror, you see yourself, and then it looks like the guy standing like behind you. As you turn around, you can see that there's nobody there. And then when you look back into the mirror, you don't see that anymore. So Caden didn't see that, but everybody else saw that.
Can I do something when I do see, like, if we are going back a second?
You can do whatever you.
All right. When I go to turn around and he's not there immediately, can I cast see invisibility?
You can.
I would like to try that and see if I notice anything unusual.
You do not.
Okay.
Could I do an intelligence check to see if it's a two-way mirror?
Sure.
I'm just gonna assume that this is why Pebble turned around like 5 times.
Holy crap! There's a dude. Oh god, there's a guy. It does not appear to be a two-way mirror. I mean, it did look like there was essentially like a ghost, for lack of a better term, behind you. And Verlin, you would, given your experience and background, ghosts are real in this world. They do apparitions and stuff do appear. So based on an 18 intelligence check, you would be relatively confident that might actually have been a spirit or ghost of some kind.
Interesting. It seems there was an actual ghost in there.
Well, I tried following him, and then I ended up right back at the beginning, like 3 times. I'm gonna go buy more food. That one was tiring.
I've never seen a ghost before, but I did try to see if it was just someone playing a bit of a trick with being invisible, and it was not that.
Oh no, ghosts are real. It's just a case of you don't usually find them in carnival mirror rooms.
Nah, I didn't see anything. Must have left me alone.
It's
And you would know too that like in apparitions and ghosts and things like that are not like, as we're sort of talking there, I mean, like they're not like necessarily viewed as inherently like evil or even necessarily like bad omens or anything like that. I mean, like you could ghost and those things could be they can be any number of things. I mean, they could be, you know, malevolent, or they could just be people who have passed on and are still here. But they're not necessarily like, oh, you know, you're not like, we gotta get rid of this thing and, you know, do an exorcism or whatever it may be. Like they're not necessarily harmful or
I mean, yeah,
anything like that.
got to
To
assume.
be fair, if I could, I probably would try to do an exorcism.
Yeah, right.
because-
Like, I mean, like just your background and everything, but they are not necessarily evil or anything like that. So
Yeah, I think I would assume that if it's been there long enough for people to see and people are constantly going through, it's probably not an evil ghost, it's just curious.
and in most cases as well, I would say, you know, that like as far as hauntings and things like that, ghosts are rarely even capable of like harming other people. I mean, for the most part, they're just sort of like apparitions that you can see, but they have very little ability to impact like the physical world. So normally they're just kind of scary, but they're not, you know.
Yeah, scary and a bit of an inconvenience to deal with, but not actually dangerous.
How long would it take to try to exorcise the ghost?
I mean, do you have any specific spells for that?
I don't have a spell for it. It would just be like a religion check for some ceremony or something.
Don't you literally have a spell called ceremony?
Uh,
That's a paladin spell, isn't it?
I
no,
thought
no,
it was
no.
a cleric one
It's
too.
on the list somewhere. I don't have it marked on my list at the
Because
moment.
I think that's a ritual spell that you could still do.
Hold on, I'll
I'll
look it
look
up
it
real
up.
quick.
I was looking at it too, but I don't think it's one that could.
I thought it was more for like marriages.
It could be that. It could be funerals. It could be.
A wedding, a funeral, coming of age, blessed water, atonement.
Long
you
story
touch
short,
both.
I don't have a specific spell for it prepared.
Well, usually as long
Unless
as you
spell
find
magic can do something about it.
Well, as long as you find the reason of why they are a ghost, they tend to pass on their own.
Mm, that doesn't seem like a carnival activity.
Well, it doesn't seem aggressive, so for now it's not an issue to be dealt with.
Yeah, if it's not something I can do right now, I'll just let it go for the time being and maybe talk to the guy outside that's pulling people in and ask him about the ghost.
I was looking at like the actual stats for a ghost in 5e. So I guess the only thing that would be they can actually do a little bit of like damage to somebody. They can do withering touch, and also they can possess people. But I would say in Verlin's experience, most ghosts are not dangerous and not evil. And actually, like even within the actual attributes of a ghost, they have can be in any alignment. Um,
Well, as long as it's
Yep.
not harming people, it's not a issue we should really concern ourselves with.
Well, but all spirits should be moved on to the other side so that they can receive Kellenvor's judgment.
Well, if you
Why don't
wish
you
to.
come back? Just come back tonight.
Yes, I can come back another time.
That means we get to do the next carnival activity. Grabs Grix and starts running.
Yay.
so there aren't really a whole lot more of the carnival activities, so you guys can kind of like mill about, and you can see you can go and watch the animals if you'd like. They do
Pebbles
have
try cards again.
yeah, and they do have like kind of like a it's like a petting zoo basically, where they have some goats and they have like some deer, some small little deer that you can go and pet. Again, it's like for kids. So small, like there's like rabbits and stuff. You know, nothing that is dangerous. Just sort of docile, grass eating um, animals that you can go and pet and feed, including the camel. You can even feed the camel, and you can ride the camel.
I'd
Which is
probably go feed some of the animals.
Pebble's gonna go chat with some of the animals. With speak with Smart.
so small thing. And they're in cages and they're like, "Kill me!" No, I'm just kidding. No, they're most of these aside from like the larger creatures like the owl bear does not appear to be in good shape or in good spirits, but like the smaller animals like seem to be well looked after. So it's not like they're chained up and malnourished or anything like that. The owl bear, you kind of would, I say, like Verlin would even kind of get the sense. I mean, it makes sense. It's the idea that these are very wild creatures that would not be okay being sort of like locked up in these places, whereas like smaller animals like goats and deer and rabbits and stuff like that are they're getting food, so they're perfectly happy to not be attacked by owl bears out in the wild. So
I want to, since we're going to be here for a few minutes, I want to ritually cast Detect Poison and Disease to see if there's anything like afflicting the bear and the owl bear, or if they're just depressed at being in captivity.
okay, I mean, yeah, that you get that like the owlbear appears to be a little bit sick, but not like poisoned or anything like that. More so, it just seems to be kind of a bit malnourished. But again, you kind of like, you don't get the impression necessarily that it's the carnival workers themselves that are like purposely not taking care of the animals. It's just that you kind of get the idea that like it's just because if you ever think like if you killer whales for example, like like how they have like their fin, which when they're in captivity they like fold over because they're just like basically sad. I mean
Yeah.
that's kind of the scenario that you're getting with these creatures, is that it's just, this is not a creature that should be here. So the carnival workers are at fault for the fact that they're keeping it captive, but like they're not like purposely neglecting this thing or making it weak or not feeding it properly. It's just it's not doing well in this environment. The bear's doing better than the owl bear, but it's also kind of the same scenario.
Okay.
So as you guys are walking around and continuing to drink and look at the animals and maybe ride some more rides or play a few more games or whatever, uh, you can see that there is a sort of crowd of onlookers standing around the entrance to one of the carnival's tents, and you hear. Well, prior to even seeing that, you actually heard a woman scream in that general direction, and as you sort of like go towards the direction of the scream, you see these crowd of onlookers standing around this tent.
I'm just gonna stand with the crowd and try to ascertain what's going on.
Ferlin, can you let me on your shoulders?
Sure.
Pebble gets up on his shoulders so she can see.
So you can see that like the tent is sort of open a little bit. Do a quick perception check with advantage because you have the advantage of height now. You're able to look over the party, or look over the crowd rather. So you can see that inside this tent, lying face down in a pool of blood, is a sort of portly gnome-like creature with red hair and sort of mottled yellow skin, and he looks like he's wearing the clothes of a carnival worker. And you can see that on his back he's got several stab wounds. And I'll say that you would even recognize, so because you had ridden the Ferris wheel, you recognize that this is the ticket taker of the Ferris wheel. And as you notice that this, you can see that there are some guards that are sort of trying to clear out the crowd or whatever, and like one of the guys like, all right, everyone, let's everybody step aside, give my men some room so they can have a look, shall we?
I'll try to push my way forward and just sort of tell them like I might be able to help, and kind of flash my holy symbol or something to try to get them to let me.
Like the crowd, the guards don't necessarily like take too much notice, but like as you said, so most of the people kind of get out of your way.
All right. I mean, I'm gonna go in there and just cast gentle repose on the body. I don't know how long it's been down, but I feel preserving it might help.
Okay. As you get close to the body, you can see that the body's his shirt has been torn open, and you can see that there are words or letters rather carved into his chest. He has stab wounds in his back, and then he has these letters carved into his chest, and it is sheaf, whatever that means, carved into his chest. You hear that one of the carnival workers mentioned that this guy's name was Cordal. So,
I mean, he's dead, right?
oh yeah, he's dead. Super dead. Grix, do an intelligence check. Caden, do an intelligence check.
Oh god, anything in particular, or just straight in?
Just straight intelligence. Actually, take that back. Do a history check. Is that intelligence or is that wisdom?
It is intelligence, but I have proficiency, so it's +3.
Would have had a +8 instead.
All right, you can do history too, Grix. Actually, it probably should have been it probably should have been history.
Do you want me to re-roll or just add 3 to my previous?
You can re-roll. There you go. So both of you actually, would know that the Abbey of the Golden Leaf, originally, oddly enough, was actually called the Abbey of the Golden Sheaf, and they changed the name probably over 100 years ago. But with your history, you would know that that is what it was originally called, and it is the Abbey of the Golden Leaf is actually dedicated to Shanti. Shanti is like the god of I think it's the goddess of like the harvest, and is usually worshipped by like halflings. Like they're big into worshiping Shanti.
Sean T, like the guy that does the insanity workout.
Shanti. She has other names too.
So wait, the Abbey of the Golden Leaf worships that, or was that the sheaf that did?
Both of them are actually it was a name change, but both of the versions of the abbey were dedicated to Shanti.
Can I like? Am I able to approach them or approach this person, or is it like the people who are running the area like not letting people in?
At this point, like they let Caden in because he sort of like flashed his badge, but they probably wouldn't let you. I mean, if Caden sort of like asks for you to come over or whatever, I guess they might let you through.
Well, when Caden comes and tells us what he saw on the body, the letters and stuff, I'll say, Caden, can you get me in there to have a look at the person?
Before I'd go back to the party, I'd probably cast gentle repose on the body and then try to talk to there's a witness in there, right?
There wasn't
the person
a witness,
that originally
but
screamed. Well,
the person
that found the body.
Yeah, the person that found the body just walked in and screamed, and noticed it. Also, I believe I was pronouncing it wrong. I think it's Chantia or Janeth was what it was originally.
The Green Goddess.
The Great Mother, the Grain Goddess, Goddess of Life. I believe in the previous game I used Janeth as her name, but Chantia.
Okay, I mean, so I would cast Gentle Repose on the body and kind of wait for, I'm assuming someone who's in charge of the guard would come by soon enough to kind of take over the scene. At which point I would just explain, I don't know how long this body's been here. It could have been hours, definitely, within the day. And just kind of leave it in their care.
Okay.
And then I would return to the group and share what I've discovered.
Yeah.
Well, before I do that, could I make some kind of investigation check to see what the stab wounds were? I mean, I'm assuming they're just a dagger.
Yeah, it would be an investigation check. Yeah. It looks like just regular old dagger, nothing special.
Okay, and there's like nothing lying around, right? Is there like a trail of blood? Like, was he sitting in a chair or something? Or
When he was found, he was laying face down, in a pool of blood. So you don't see like a trail or anything like that. And whoever, I mean, with a 14, I'll say it's a good enough to, if you really do some investigating. I mean, his shirt was torn open, but you can see that there's like some additional blood stains like on the sleeve of the torn open shirt, which would lead you to believe that like the guy was stabbed, and then this word was carved into his chest, and then the blade was wiped off on the shirt, and so there were like trail of blood or anything like that. So you get the idea that this guy didn't fight back. There's no like signs of struggle or anything like that. Like he was probably stabbed from behind, and then
ambushed, and then
they
carved,
it,
and then
laid
flipped him over.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Then yeah, I'll just return to the group and share what I've discovered.
CSI Trockford.
Grix is gonna immediately say, can you tell them to let me look at the body? It's interesting.
I mean, I'll try to get Grixon then to help with the investigation.
Yeah, I mean, like, so sort of the head guy that's in charge of this, he's very willing to accept your assistance, saying like, we already have our hands full with the carnival, we're a small town, so we don't have a whole lot to give here. So, I'm sure maybe we could even come up with a small reward if you're able to help us out here.
Yeah. As soon as he says yes, Grix kind of just walks himself in. And can I look over the body? I want to see if I can find any sort of religious symbol on this person. Like, is he a worshiper of Shantia and stuff like that? I want to look to see if there's any indication of a religion he follows.
Yeah, do a investigation check.
And where's this carnival located again? Is it? I know it's outside of Trockford, but is it in like the fields that should be sown at this time, or?
Yeah, I mean it is in the fields outside, and so so that you're aware, I'm gonna put in Discord. So that is a sheaf, and that is also a symbol of Shantia. A sheaf is one of the symbols of her. You do not find any religious marking or anything like that. I will say with a natural 20, although again you can't critically succeed on a skill check. However, that's still a 28, which is pretty darn good. You kind of get the impression that this guy, though at first glance appears to be a gnome, upon further investigation, he's not so much. He's not a gnome.
Oblin?
He's not actually. What he is, and this is a bit different for people who have played most role-playing games. This would be sort of an image of what he kind of is. And then he's a Spriggan. Now, Spriggans in like Skyrim, for example, are sort of like tree-like creatures, more kind of like small ants, I guess. But in the Forgotten Realms, Spriggans are kind of warped gnome kind of fey creatures. Spriggans are their origin comes from folklore where there was sort of like ugly fairy thieves. But yeah, I mean, so like you kind of get maybe that like when you saw him previously when he was taking tickets that he might have had some sort of a spell cast upon him, to make him look different. Now, also, it's possible that in 5th edition, a Spriggan is more like the tree creature. I think actually it is in 5th edition, but the Spriggans of earlier editions of Forgotten Realms was this type of creature. I didn't want to give it a different name, so. But it's
And
just a sort of a gnomish like fey creature, kind of warped by fey magic.
and can I do like any sort of check to know if the followers of Shantia have ever been known to be violent like this, to kill something or someone?
I can do a religion check. Not that you're aware of. Shantia was. You would know that her followers tend to be very fanatical about her worship. Often worshipped by druids.
So would I
Like that.
would I know that then that this thing might have been a follower of her? Like, is that a possibility?
Given what the nature that you now believe this to be, you would assume probably not. Shantia is considered a good deity, for example. You would know that Spriggans, in general, though not considered to be like inherently evil, are not also not viewed as necessarily the nice creatures.
I'm just because it doesn't seem to Grix like this would be something that a follower of Shantia would do. So he was kind of like thinking maybe this was a follower or something like that. Does Shantia have like enemies, like that would want to give a bad name to her, like just carving like something of her followers into a dead thing's body?
With a 17 on religion, I mean, Shantia was opposed by like Bane and to a lesser extent Malar, and Malar was a lesser deity, often
He was
worshipped
like
by
the evil
lycanthropes.
lycanthropes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bane being, a greater deity of fear and hatred and tyranny. So Bane is certainly a much more terrifying god than Malar, but it's you're not really getting any like obvious conclusions. It's a little bit confusing, honestly. It's hard to pinpoint because Spriggans are fey creatures, and fey creatures don't have anything necessarily against Shantia, and Shantia doesn't necessarily have anything against fey creatures either. So it's a bit weird. So you're not entirely sure if it's like specifically related to the fact that this guy is a fey creature, or if it's just related more towards the carnival itself, or you don't get any specific sort of here's the answer.
Then the only other thing I would do would be to look around to see if there's any sort of discreet entrance exit type thing. Like, is there like is there anything I could see that looks like, okay, well, if someone was going to assassinate someone in this tent, it would have gone through here?
Not really. I mean, like, there are a number of entrances that people could kind of sneak through, though for the most part it's sort of fenced in a little bit just so that they can keep people from sneaking in without paying them. But with the large number of people that are here, it seems like it would be not entirely difficult to sneak in if you really wanted to.
Okay.
But there's no like specifically obvious place where like, oh well, that's where they would go.
Would it?
But
then-
I mean, again, like you could, I would say, with investigation and religion and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like the abbey might be like a place that you'd be interested in. I mean, I know Caden wanted to go in that general direction, check out the stones anyway, but that
Mhm.
might be a place for some answers as well.
Just want to say, is it possible to investigate the angle of stab wounds?
I would say with the 28, Grix was probably able to determine that, and they would be from someone that was taller than this person, so they would more downward strikes.
Yeah, I was thinking, would it be unreasonable to think this is like dwarf height, human height, orc height type deal?
I'm pretty sure like once you're taller, it's kind of all the same.
I mean, for the most part, yeah, it's pretty difficult to determine the specific height of someone other than that they were obviously taller than this person. Probably taller than a dwarf as well.
I mean, that still rules out gnomes and dwarfs and halflings.
Yeah.
Grix is gonna walk back up to the group then and say, Caden, perhaps it's time we pay a visit to where you wanted to go originally, the Abbey.
Do we have time? Are we gonna miss the show? Not that that's more important than a dead body, but
You two go
Just
to
asking.
the abbey. I'll stay here with Pebble.
That's a great idea to just send two of us. And great idea.
Yeah, let's go, Grix.
Splitting the party, always a good idea.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, especially when we burned spell slots on
Hey,
carnival games.
That's not on me.
Oh, wait, Grix, I can give spell black back to you. Here you go.
Grix is gonna be like, okay, sure, thanks, and he'll take a third level back, and he'll kind of just look and just say, these tickets they're not for a specific show. We can always see another one if you want to come with us.
And he's right. They're not like they don't have dates and times on them or anything.
You have the matinee on the fourth day.
So we can watch them tomorrow?
We're staying overnight anyway.
She looks back at Verlin. Or, I guess, down at Verlin.
Well, if you want.
Sure, let's go. As long as I can see the show and I don't miss it.
We can even try to make it back for one of the shows tonight. It's not. They'll probably have another one.
Okay, let's do it.
And as we're leaving, can I just whoever the guy was that was in charge, can I just kind of look and just say, how will we where will we be able to find you when we get back?
And he's like, well, I mean, we can't really stay in one place, so I guess just look.
Then what's your name? If I run into any of the guards, I could ask them to send word to you.
His name is Emrius.
Yes. Okay. All right. Grix will just kind of nod and then turn around and look to Caden and just say, "After you."
So it's not super close. I mean, you can see it in the distance, but it'll take you a little bit of time to get there. So you can see as you're sort of like making your way towards the abbey. There are. Let me change the music here now that we're no longer in the um, there are like probably 12 sort of triangular fields that sort of fan out from this sort of circular center, and they're where the abbey itself stands, and there are sort of lanes that sort of circle the abbey, and there's like barns out in the fields that surround it, and then sort of you can see that there are like, I guess, like pathways that are sort of like straight cut through these different little fields of grain and the things that they're growing there. Um, and you see sort of like divides it all into these little like nice neat quadrants. And you can see that the fields are uh, sort of surrounded in a circle. There's like a road that rings around it all, and there's like a. You can see that there's a wall that it still stands in some places, but hasn't really been kept up surrounding the fields itself. But you kind of get the idea that like the fields that surround the abbey are like used for the abbey, right? Like so, like it's their property, I guess. And you can see that there is uh, an orchard and like an herb garden as you're sort of getting closer in, and you can see that there are the abbey itself has like all these crawling vines up over the stone, so like it's partially covered in green. Um, you can see that despite the fact that it's, as mentioned, when we first started the game, it's been very hot and dry. This place seems to be quite green, and everything seems to be growing quite well. Um, and you can see that throughout, in addition to the sort of like sections of the wall that are sort of fallen about, you can see that there is bits of rubble around the abbey, where you kind of get the idea that there used to be other like outbuildings and stuff that have sort of fallen down over time and were just sort of left to rot, for lack of a better term. And as you get closer, I mean, there aren't any. You don't really see too many. You don't actually don't see anybody walking around outside, and this sort of interior wall, as you get past or through the fields and to the abbey itself, you can see that there is a small wall that is surrounding the abbey itself, um, and you can see like the lower section of the abbey. It's a stone building, and it actually has a roof of almost looks like just like sod. So like the roof has like grass and stuff growing on top of it. It's not like shingles or anything like that. And you can see that like above the door, the entranceway, there's like what appears to be like holly and mistletoe and stuff hanging on it. I mean, you get the idea that like this is definitely a uh, a temple or cloister abbey that is uh, worshipped by a deity that is all about nature, because the building itself appears to be growing, basically.
Okay. Once we get up to the gate, I'll knock and try to introduce myself and ask to see someone that I could speak to regarding an incident at the carnival.
Yeah, you're able to walk in. The doors aren't locked. There's even partially ajar. So when you sort of enter in, you can see that there are three clerics, I guess, that are in the sort of main entranceway, um, and they're able to, they welcome you all in, and do it is this is where Errol Collingsworth is where he lives, and they tell you that they will actually go and get him to speak with you. Um, if you'd like,
Oh, I'd
er,
like.
while they are uh, going to get him, you guys can do a investigation check of the room as they're out.
Does anyone want to help me so I roll with advantage?
I've got a +5 myself.
I mean, mine's 8, so we could all just
I'll
roll.
help Grix. I'll help Grix. I don't cast guidance.
Oh,
Does Pebble
And
want
it's
to,
on-
Pebble want to
Pebble's
help
gonna
me
look
understand?
around too. Pebble will look around as well.
29.
You couldn't get the 30, could you?
Couldn't.
So you guys do have a bit of time, and it's I wouldn't say it's suspicious, but it takes a while. Like they leave, and you guys are by yourselves for a while, maybe 15, 20 minutes. So you are able to kind of like look around without. And I mean, obviously at first you kind of wait and don't do anything, but then as you kind of get a little bit bored and you're sitting around, there's like a large table sort of in the back uh, of the room, and you can see that there's like a bookshelves and stuff behind that. You kind of get the idea that this might be where uh, Errol like would receive people. And as you're sort of like flipping around, you notice that there's like a journal there that maybe you would find interesting to look through. And you see that it is a journal of Errol Collingsworth. It's kind of tucked away a little bit, so it was obviously not just sitting there for you to read. But
Oh yeah, Grix does not give two shits. He reads it completely, as much as he
so
could.
you can see that most of the entries are written in a very clear script, describing his thoughts about nature. He mentions friendly conversations with a local druid of Sylvanas, who is named Bridger, which is the guy that you guys knew uh, was around but has disappeared. And Sylvanas, being a deity that is actually like in close relations with Shantia as well. Um, and you get he describes various religious rituals that he's been required to perform. He makes mention of his relationship to his practitioners. There's lists about past religious festivals that have been held around the abbey and in Shrockford itself. Um, However, near the end of the journal, the entries become like nearly illegible. Um, and go ahead and do an insight check. Okay. Um, so you kind of get the basic gist of these sort of in, illegible sort of ramblings, um, and it's him talking about trips to the woods, um, back behind the abbey. So similar, like, where the woodcutters found the stones. He's talking about those woods. They don't have a specific name; they're not that big. So basically, just the woods that are surrounding the on the backside of the abbey itself. Um, he mentions these trips to the woods, and he has these uh, growing obsession with someone that he calls the Lady of the Water, and that's basically all that you're able to get from it.
Okay.
So in addition to that, though, like the investigation itself, um, inside this interior here, um, you can see that it's odd because when you're standing there, you kind of get the idea that like there probably is a stone floor, but the ground is covered in dirt. Um, so you kind of get the idea that like this again just part of like this nature deity, that the structure was built with a floor, but the people that worship here have sort of rather than leaving the stone flooring, they've covered it in dirt and soil. It's not muddy or anything like that, it's dry, but and you can see that on the inside, just like on the outside, there are vines that are creeping up all along um, the walls and up even up onto the ceiling. And you can see that behind this desk that you were looking at, there is a bit of an altar that's carved into the so it's like a inset into the back wall with an image of like it's an image of Shantia, but it's you can tell I don't even know how to describe it. I guess it's not like done to I guess it's more I don't want to say caricature, but it's not like a very clear image of her. It's more like a abstract sort of image of her, and then on the sides you can see the flanked. She's flanked by the stalks of wheat, the sheafs on the side. It's very interesting to look at. I mean, you can see that it almost looks like primitive art, I guess. But you do recognize that that's what it is. I will say you also find throughout like the room there are several bundles of incense. There's a wooden box, and you can see that as you're flipping through everything, you find that the interior of this box is lined with satin. And it has like a cross-like impression in the middle. But whatever would be placed in that box on that satin is missing. It's empty, but you can just see the impression of what would be there.
Can I get an idea of like what it would be, like the size of it or anything like that?
Well, I mean, you would guess, given the shape of it, it's probably one of two things. It's either some type of religious symbol, like, or it's a dagger, because it's cross shaped, so it could be either of those things, right? Like,
I will obviously share everything I get with everyone else.
so
Very quietly to make sure no one around can hear or anything like that if there's anyone around.
We can ask what was in this box. That might be of importance.
I'm pretty sure already what was in it.
What was in it, do you think?
Would seem to be probably the dagger that just from the what he was writing about. I something seems to have happened, and I don't know what, but I think that this might be who the stabbed the person.
Interesting.
And I'll explain how, like, as he got going on, his writings, like they got like, what would you consider it, like more like fanatic?
Yeah, I mean, they're just it's more just like sort of they start to, like, the writing is not written. It's not, literally not written as well. It's more scribblings than just like the very clear, precise thoughts that were being placed in the beginning of the journal. And then it just starts to become more about, like, it's more rambling, just sort of like sometimes it would just be saying the same thing like over and over and over again, and so it just
So there was like a clear change in the mental state, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just be sure not to overplay your hand, considering it seems that there's some issues going on here.
Oh no! I would never think of doing that. This is just between us.
And I didn't mention it. I just neglected to say. So the people, there were two. I think I said three, but there are two people. There are three people total, including Errol here. So there's Clara, who would be essentially the second highest ranking member of this group here, behind Errol. And then there is a young man named Yavin. So those are essentially the clerics that are currently inhabiting the abbey. So it was Clara and Yavin that you met. They seemed nice enough, and then they were going to get Errol. They mentioned that he was outside and that they would go and get him. So that's probably why it was taking so long.
When they're going, Can I send Archie to just fly up in the air over them and see where they go retrieve him from?
Yep.
Okay.
And they were going out to the forest to get him.
So,
And it probably does take you. It probably does take maybe 35 minutes or so for them to return. So if there's anything else you guys wanted to discuss before that happens, or he returns, you can.
Well, it's possible that the revelation of these stones or a creature he has met may be causing an issue in the town.
with how close this area is to like Rivengard, is there any like folk tales or anything about like this Lady of the Water or whatever he called it?
You have not. I'm not even going to make you guys roll on that. You have not heard anything about that before.
Okay.
I would say that most of the like looking at the map here, Trockford is usually pretty nondescript. Like there's not a whole lot that it's known for specifically. The closest thing to Rivengard that people where you would hear folk tales and stuff would be to the northwest there, the Forest of Dreams. And there is a old elven settlement where a lot of druids live currently, which is the Elundale. That place has all kinds of crazy stories and rumors and such.
Okay.
But Trockford is usually just a. Most of the time, people in Rivengard just don't like that these poor folk are that close to them. It's kind of like the really nice mansion that has like that has the really crappy house next door that's lowering the property values. Like that's kind of how Rivengard views Trockford. Is it just kind of like out of sight, out of mind? Like they most people in Rivengard don't pay much attention to it. Yarmouth is probably more of the like if you're looking at like main roads, so it would be Rivengard to Yarmouth to Bell Creek. Like that's more of the main road because that takes you to Tredivoria, and Tredivoria is the more recent owners, I guess, of this land. So that is much more. That's a much larger road and a much more prosperous sort of place. And Trockford's sort of a little bit off the beaten path. So the Rivengard, I don't even know, citizens of Rivengard, the Rivengardites, usually don't pay as much attention to Trockford because there's not a whole lot. So like the roads, like past Trockford doesn't really go anywhere. There's no, so like there would be a road that would go to Yarmouth, and there would be a road that would go probably up to where New Rayla was, and then up to Stonebridge. So Trockford is kind of like left out of the loop for the most part.
Okay.
At least as far as like heavy travel and like sort of the major roads, because you'd end up going this way and then having to cross rivers and stuff. So it's just kind of ignored for the most part and is not known for anything crazy or weird.
Well, what do we think is the best approach?
Well, probably talk to him, see if he knows anything, if anything weird's been happening, but again, don't overplay anything that's you've just read.
I can always look into his thoughts as well, but that would also be something he would know after I finished.
Let's not do anything too hasty here. That might close the door, if you know what I mean.
Well, I could always later on tonight or some other time. I can always take a look back in here with my clairvoyance spell and see what's going on and listening.
We could also, after we're finished here, attempt to find this lady in the forest.
Yeah, it might have something to do with the stone circle. I kind of wanted to check that out anyway.
Yeah, I'm good for more exploring.
A creature or a person that could uh, gather another's attention as quickly and as powerfully as this. And like I kind of like motion towards the book to like how he quickly changed like his writing styles and stuff. I go, that seems rather powerful.
Well, we can look for it. We don't have to fight it.
Sometimes looking and stumbling across is the same as looking for a fight.
Okay, so I'm going to add something to the original investigation as well. Do everybody do a, I guess we'll say we can do a nature or a straight or a straight intelligence check, whichever would be better for you.
Hey, Pebble.
So Pebble has something to add when you make mention of um, what you read in his diary. When you mention the Lady of the Water, um, in her um, tribe, she would have been somewhat familiar with something like that. Made her think of this. Basically, there are fey creatures called glystigs, and I'll just type that real quick because it's a mouthful. So, glystigs are fey creatures that resemble women in waist-deep water, and they tend to lurk around rivers and lakes and streams and ponds and that type of thing. And at first glance, they appear to be a beautiful woman in the midst of drowning. However, upon closer inspection, glystigs have hoofed feet and have like basically they kind of like have goat legs basically. So they hoof feet and like furry legs. So they have like the human looking top half, and they have sort of like generally they have like long white hair, have like fanged teeth, and which they generally try to hide from unsuspecting prey. They uh, usually they drain the blood of their uh, the creatures that they catch, basically. So in certain places, they've been mistaken for vampires. They are not vampires, and I will say that if anybody brings that up, Pebbles is very knowledgeable of the fact that that's not what they are. They do have spell-like abilities that they can sort of distract or hypnotize people. They also sort of like can sing songs like sirens that will beguile people. So when you mention the fact that like he's talking about this Lady of the Water and that that he seems to be sort of like all over the place or whatever, Pebble has seen. I mean, she may have even seen a Glystig before, but she certainly would recognize some of the signs, I guess. And she might pipe up and say, "Hey, maybe it's this that he's talking about."
Gemma told me all the stories.
Makes sense.
And yeah, I mean, it would be like if she hadn't seen them, it would be like tales that you would tell, even like children. Don't go near swamps, don't go near ponds by yourself because of glystigs or whatever. So like it would be something that she would recall hearing about and sound similar enough to mention it. And actually, that's cool. It makes sense that she would know. So I'm glad you rolled well.
Roll well on something tonight.
You eventually pass the games.
After a cheating counterspell.
Yep. That's okay. I didn't kill anybody then.
Yes. So eventually, you guys kind of like having these discussions and thoughts about what this is. Collingsworth does appear, and you can see that he's got a unkempt beard. You can see that his clothes are mud spattered. He's covered in twigs and leaves. His hair is disheveled. He's got like sticks and stuff in his hair. And you notice that it's not like instantaneous, but you do as he gets closer, you can tell he probably hasn't bathed in a few weeks because he definitely, you get that body odor smell that's pretty strong.
A few weeks, God.
Yeah. He's definitely not in the best of shape. So he walks in, and he very pleasantly sort of greets you and asks if what he can do to assist. He doesn't seem crazy, by the way. I'm just he seems normal when you talk to him, aside from his appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we just wanted to come talk to you. We were over at the carnival outside of town, and there was a murder that had happened. Um, the reason we came here is because carved in the victim's chest was the word sheaf. And we were just wondering if you might have any insight on what happened.
He says, "Well, I don't know anything about it, although sheaf would certainly seem to be related to this place."
Do you know if there have been any problems with your abbey and the carnivals in the past?
No, we've never had any problems before. We always enjoyed having them come along, and makes people happy. Yes, you can make an insight check.
Can all of us, or is it just him?
I mean, anybody wants to do it's fine. Verlin thinks that he's the most truthful person that he's ever seen. Um, for Grix and Caden, yeah, I mean, he doesn't appear to be uh, lying, attempting to hide anything.
Is there any history between your abbey and the carnival? Have any of the people from the carnival been here to visit at all?
Oh, they've come to offer some tithings to acknowledge the fact that we have assisted them in the past. When they first came along, the people of Trockford did not want them to set up shop there, but we convinced them otherwise, and they've came to offer some assistance as far as donations to keep our abbey running, and we've offered them some grains and such to help feed them while they're here.
Do you know if there's any one or any group in particular that has had any conflicts with the carnival? Anyone that wouldn't want them around?
Well, most of the people in Rivengar don't want them around, but I don't know anybody specifically that would be killing people. I don't even know what.
Yes, it is a bit strange. I was just hoping to see if you could help us out at all in our investigation.
Well, if you can provide me with any details, I certainly would do all I can to help.
You said we didn't find any like religious symbols or anything on it.
Nope.
And what was this group called? The what of the leaf?
It is the Abbey of the Golden Leaf.
Yeah, originally at the Abbey of the Golden Chief, but they changed the name.
I'll look at him and I'll say, do you happen to have anyone that would want to make you or the Abbey look bad?
Not that I'm aware of. We, as you can see, Clara and Yavin and I are the only ones that are even here. Our Abbey has seen better days, and most people don't seem to care for. And he sort of looked at Cade and says, "These days, the gods aren't worshipped like they used to be, and Shantia in particular has lost a lot of followers, and we have suffered because of this."
Yes, I know what you mean. Did you happen to know the victim at all? I believe his name was Cordal.
He was a Spriggan.
He sort of like raises an eyebrow when you say that. No, I don't. Tormund is the only one who I've ever spoken with. I don't know any of the other carnival workers.
Can I insight that?
Yep.
Is there anyone here who don't like Fae? Like a Spriggan?
He doesn't seem to be lying about not knowing the other people either.
Okay.
And he said to Pebble, he said, "We are all very fond of Fey creatures. Shantia is a nature creature, and our nature god, and the Fays are nature creatures. So I feel we are kindred spirits."
Why are you called leaf instead of sheaf, even though sheafs make they're very closely connected with Shantia?
And he chuckles, and he says, "Well, that decision was made many years before. At least myself came along before I was born. From the archives, we found that a lot of people don't know what a sheaf is,
I didn't know what a sheaf was.
and people felt that leaf would just be easier for people to understand what our abbey was mostly about, and in nature." And he sort of like motions to the ceiling and to the walls with all of the leaves and everything.
So I know the victim was a Fae, and it seems like there's a lot more Fae activity going on in the Regal Grove. Have you encountered any Fae creatures near Rivengard recently? I find it a bit unusual that one was working in the carnival.
And he chuckles a little bit. He says, "Well, then you must not know the carnival people very much, or very well. They certainly welcome all types. I think you'll find that there are many people who are considered outcasts by the rest of the world that find a home within places like that. You probably saw some fey creatures. You probably saw some other creatures there that you didn't realize were what they were."
Yes, there were definitely some interesting characters there.
And a ghost.
They keep talking about a ghost. I didn't see anything, but
he sort of just shrugs, like not that he doesn't care, but like just not even remotely like surprised that you would mention something like that. As far as fey creatures within Rivengard, anytime you find a forest, if you look hard enough, you'll find them. The Forest of Dreams, of course, being the most common place of sightings.
Mm-hmm. Do any of you have anything to add? I'll kind of motion towards Verlin and Grix.
Grix kind of like just looks around and he goes, um, what were you doing? Did we pull you away from something important in the forest?
No, I find it easier to. And he sort of stops for a second and says, feel connected to Shantia in the woods than I do indoors.
Well,
Do you know anything about the rock circle?
And he kind of stares for a moment and says, I don't know anything specifically about it. Some woodcutters found it and brought it to our attention. I haven't had much time to investigate it, although I can say that it's very, very old and much older than the abbey itself. I tried to steer clear of it for the time being. When I did go near it, it seemed rather ominous.
D- d- were you able to tell if it was magical in any way? Did it seem to be anything out of apart from nature?
The stones appear nature, but the runes I did not understand and did not want to investigate
Oh,
too
I,
closely.
I'm very good with runes. If you would like to show us where the stones are, perhaps I could tell you what they say.
Mm, maybe someday, not today. And you can see that he's kind of like clamming up a little bit, like, getting a little bit impatient with all of the questions.
All right. I'm gonna take a little bit of a risk and turn and look to everyone and say, oh, well, if that's the case, perhaps we could just go find them ourselves.
Yeah, I don't mind going exploring.
we should probably keep an eye out for the Glasty we've heard in the area.
And he says, I don't think it would be such a good idea for you to be exploring around the abbey.
Any particular reason?
Because you don't belong here and you're not even followers of Shantia?
We were tasked by the guard to find things or to figure out what was going on. So, if there's a problem, perhaps you should bring it up with them. They said to do what we had to do.
Well, the guards have no authority over the abbey, and I fail to see how some ancient stones would have anything to do with the murder of a carnival worker.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I've seen much more from much less.
You don't
Well,
find it odd what was carved into this person's chest?
oh, I certainly find it very odd, but I don't know what would be the cause of it, and I do not believe that, again, stones that existed before the abbey existed would have anything to do with it. I think that maybe you should continue your investigations, but I don't think that you're going to find your answers here. And he sort of, at this point, he kind of just stands up and says, If there's nothing else, and he doesn't wait for you to respond. He just says, "If there's nothing else," and he just walks out.
I'm gonna do an insight on that last part about him saying why we shouldn't look around.
Yeah. God damn it! I can't roll for shit.
I mean, the second roll was good. If only you had advantage.
I mean, more than anything, you kind of get the idea. It's difficult to read other than the fact that he just seems annoyed now.
And he leaves, right? The other two stay.
Yavin is still there.
And is he a human or what?
Yeah, he is a human male. Pretty young.
All right, I'll look to him and. Excuse me, I don't mean to be a bother, but did we do something wrong? He seemed rather upset with us.
And he actually has a fair bit to say. And Ryan, I talked about this the other day, and I said that I wasn't going to do this very often. But in this case, I have a lot of stuff that he can tell you, and I don't want to RP it because it'll just take too long. So I'm just going to kind of give you a gist of
The lore dump.
The lore dump, kind of, just because it'll take too long to like try and have this conversation because he has a lot of stuff that, and I'm going to have him tell you things that you may not automatically ask for as well. So basically, Yavin, he tells you that and you can see that he's kind of young and naive, and basically through the discussions with him, kind of get the idea that he's very new, and he's little more than like a glorified like altar boy at this point, basically. But he's very concerned about Errol. That Errol was once, a very, attentive and charismatic man. Yavin is actually from Trockford. And so he remembers Errol, before all of this.
Yeah, in his heyday.
Yeah, and even before he joined the Abbey, basically. And he makes mention that, Errol's become very taciturn. He's isolating himself in the woods for weeks at a time. Clerics of Shantia often do like retreat into nature for extended periods of time as part of their religious practices. But Errol's recent excursions have started to be like abnormally long, often to the detriment of his other duties. And he's tried following him to find out, what he's up to. But he often just loses track of him. And Clara, the other cleric, who's not here at the moment, has been trying to sort of keep up appearances, but she's been seriously considering, like, writing a letter to the, I guess for lack of a better term, sort of like the Home Office, like the head.
Yeah, the Vatican.
Right. To kind of say, hey, we've got this guy out here who's kind of like losing it. And apparently the only thing that kind of stays her hand is like she has a lot of deep respect for Errol himself and the belief that there must be an explanation for, his recent behavior. So Yavin also makes mention of the fact that having heard the conversation about everything, he says, listen, I don't know if it means anything, but a few weeks ago after services, I saw a man sort of kneeling before the altar, and when I got closer, I could see that it was Boren. Boren is the local butcher, and his face was like streaked with tears, and he was like praying like really earnestly for forgiveness. And when I asked what was wrong, he said there was nothing wrong, and he just stood up and left. And then a few days ago, I was cleaning, and I noticed that a dagger was missing from the altar, and I thought at the time that maybe Cleric Collinsworth had walked off with it again, but now I'm wondering if it wasn't Boren who took it.
This information is very useful to our investigation. I appreciate you coming forward and providing. Regarding Mr. Collingsworth, hopefully we can help him as well. He does seem a little unstable at the moment.
He agrees, and he also sort of reiterates, even similar to what Collingsworth said, which is that the fact that Sheaf was written in there, he confirms that likely at least refers to the Abbey, but he can't fathom why somebody would do such a thing. And you also get the idea that he's probably talking a lot more than Clara or Errol would like him to, but it's just, again, he's very young and sort of naive and running his mouth like he shouldn't be. But he kind of gives you the impression that maybe going to see Boren would be an option.
I'm gonna look at him real quick and just say, this dagger that was taken. Do you happen to? Is there any way you could tell me what it looked like, or what it was made out of?
It's a silver dagger, ceremonial. So you would get the idea that it's not. And I don't think that you would have necessarily viewed this when you saw the stab wounds. Maybe a little bit. I didn't really think about it at the time when I was describing it. But given the fact that it's more of a ceremonial dagger, it would have been. It's probably more of a puncture than
it's not the sharpest thing in the world.
Exactly. So obviously the point would still kill somebody, it's sharp enough, but it'd be almost like stabbing somebody with a spike rather than slicing into somebody with a very sharp dagger blade. So it would be even more painful. So I'll retroactively say that you maybe noticed that a little bit, that the stab wounds appeared to be with a somewhat blunt instrument, therefore causing more of a puncture than a slice, I guess. So again, leading you to believe that it's probably the same weapon, right?
Yeah. Well, we appreciate the help. Regarding the stone circle, is there any way you could show us where it's at?
And he kind of looks around the abbey to make sure that nobody's looking, and said, I'd really rather not, if it's all the same.
I think it might have to do with Mr. Collingsworth's recent issues.
I'm gonna look to Caden real quick and just say, perhaps perhaps we should do the investigation about the murder first, and come back to that a little bit later when and I nod towards the human, and I say, when he's had more time to think about what is going on with Collinsworth.
Yes, that's fine. Just something to consider is that if there is residual magic at the stone circle, if Mr. Collingsworth is exposed to it, it may be the reason for his changes, his recent changes. And with that, I'll turn around to kind of walk out.
Okay.
And I'll thank the guy again for his help, and tell him that we'll try to figure out everything and get him some more information as well, and head out with Caden.
Is there a box for tithings on the way out?
Yeah.
I'll drop in 5 gold.
Okay.
And once we all like get outside a little bit, like out of earshot of anyone else, I'll kind of look to everyone and, uh, Caden, I still think it might be a good idea to go. I just don't know if it would be a good idea for them to know that we're going.
I understand. I just think it might be easier to have him get us into the abbey. I don't know if is the stone circle like enclosed in like the wall or whatnot, or is it just like
It
out
isn't.
in the
It's
field
not.
on the?
It's actually outside. So basically, the abbey and the abbey has like a small um, wall around it, but it's basically just sort of like there's like a small graveyard there on the side of it and everything. But it's just sort of like the main grounds of the abbey itself, and then outside of that is mainly just like fields of like grains and stuff. And then there's used to be a full wall around those as well, but that wall sort of like fallen into
Yeah.
disrepair. And then
Okay.
outside of those walls would be the forest.
Is that even on like their land?
Technically, it isn't, but he didn't tell you that.
Okay. I mean, I just assumed since they were the ones that knew about it, maybe they could guide us.
Grix is going to kind of look at everyone and say, "Oh, actually, real quick, what time is it right now? Is it getting to be late at all?"
Yeah, it's getting pretty late at this point.
Okay. Yeah. So Grix will look at everyone and say, "Well, we can go to the forest now, which, especially with some sort of creepy stones, might not be the best idea at night. But if we wait to talk to the butcher until the morning, I'll be able to be ready and locate the dagger if he still has it."
Yes, I believe that waiting until the morning might be for the best.
So you guys can head back to Trockford, to your rooms if you'd like.
Well, as
Yeah.
we're going back, I want to walk up beside Pebble and just say, "Sorry, the first day got ruined."
It's okay. I still won a bunch of prizes, like Mud, my new pig. And we'll see the show tomorrow, hopefully.
Well, we'll certainly make time to see it before the carnival leaves town.
Yeah, we have 7 days. We can even play more carnival. I have to beat the dark games.
All right. Then I guess uh, how many rooms did we get, Verlin and Caden?
We were only able to find a couple.
Well, I, I sleep pretty much on a chair. If someone wants to take the bed, perhaps we could do one of you and one of us, and he'll kind of point toward between me and or him and Pebble in each room because we take up so much less space.
I don't mind sleeping on the floor either. I used to do that in the village sometimes.
Sure, that works for me.
I mean, I would say honestly, Grix and Caden are probably the only two that. Well, there's only 4 of you, but Verlin and Pebble would both be perfectly comfortable. In fact, Verlin may be more comfortable sleeping on the floor than in a soft bed.
There's not many soft beds out in the wilderness.
Yeah, I mean, he would spend most of his time out, like literally out in the wilderness, camping and stuff. Like didn't. I mean, he would have a place that he would have, trained at and stayed, but even then, he would have spent most of his time sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, Grix was pampered, like living at home in a bed and stuff, but he's been sleeping on the bench a few nights at the guild hall.
That's true.
But yeah, he'll whatever room he gets, he'll just like pull out like a chair or something, and if they has like a cushion, and sleep on that. If not, he'll just throw a couple pillows on the ground and make a makeshift bed.
Okay. So yeah, if you'd like, you can at least on your way back. So the butcher that Yavin mentioned is in Trockford. Like it's the butcher of Trockford. So if you wanted, you could sort of you could stop and look on your way back to the inn, or you can just go straight to the inn, whichever you prefer.
I vote would be if we're gonna walk by it anyway, we could have like a quick look around, but Grix would rather be prepared with like a locate object spell to actually go and start a conversation.
When you want to be short on spell slots for,
Well, not sure on spell slots. I don't have locate object ready.
I got you.
I mean, if I took another short rest, I would actually be able to get all my spell slots back right now.
I would go in and go to order something to eat. And I don't know if but I'd go to get like something and just see if Boren was there and his current appearance, see if his clothes are like dirty or if they're bloody and tattered or anything like that.
So essentially there are like the butcher has basically there's like three buildings as part of uh the overall property. So you would have like the main building where he would have like where he would live and where the actual shop would be, and then there would be two outbuildings. There's like the salt room where you would like salt meats and stuff, and then there would be like the smokehouse. And so the main building, because it's evening, would be closed up. Well, they'd all technically be closed up, so the shop would not be open. But you could investigate the buildings if you wanted.
I don't think I'm very well suited for trying to poke my nose around, so I would just if the shop isn't open, I would just kind of leave it at that.
Okay. You don't have won't have a rogue, so there's no sneaking about. Although
I mean,
Pebbles has a
Pebbles
high
is sneaky as hell.
she has a high dex, so she should be relatively sneaky. I don't know if you're
Yep.
proficient in stealth, but
Yep, she is.
okay. So yeah, Pebbles is
But yeah,
small and stealthy. So
I mean, if that's the case, if it's like obviously not a lot of people around, I'll look at Pebble and I'll say, "Do you think you could take a look around the back and through any alleys and see if you could find anything? Just be very quiet
I can do that. I can be quiet.
and not make sure that you don't get angry."
No, I'm not gonna get angry just because I'm sneaking around.
so as you would go towards the property, like the easiest, because you can see that they don't they're sort of ramshackle in their build. So like the salt room and the smokehouse would probably be easier to, I guess, try and look at, infiltrate than the main house. The main house is actually like a proper building, and the other ones are more like shacks that have been built for these purposes, more kind of like small barns basically. So you can see that there maybe like the smokehouse doesn't have as much is built a little bit stronger, but like the salt room, it's you can sort of like even see sort of like gaps in between the planks.
She'll explore those ones first, listening just to make sure that like the rooms are actually empty.
All right, do a investigation. Which do you want to look at first, the salt room or the smokehouse?
Let's do salt room first.
Okay, so do an investigation check, and then you can do a perception as well for like listening. Okay, so as you get close to the salt room, the building doesn't have any windows in it, but there are some slats in the wood that you can sort of like peek through, and they're is enough light because of like the festival and stuff that's going on and the carnival, that you can kind of. It takes a little bit of time to sort of like get your eye close enough to like have it adjust and keep the light from the outside from bugging you. But when you look in, you can see like the salted carcasses of cows and pigs and sheep are like hanging from the ceiling on long iron chains. Um, it's 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 somewhat of an unsettling sight because you got a bunch of dead, creatures hanging from the ceiling, which is a bit, creepy. You can see off in the far left-hand corner of the room, there's like a pedal-powered like bandsaw that's stained with blood. Um, Obviously used to, cut all the pieces up. And you can see that there is a thick wooden door that um, is pretty firmly shut. With a perception, um, you hear some rustling sounds like up in the rafters of the building, but you can't see anything. That's all. That's all you get from the salt room.
Okay. She's gonna peek into the smokehouse.
So the smokehouse is a sturdier um, building, and there's no way it also does not have windows, because obviously when you have a smokehouse, you want to keep the smoke in. So the door is locked, but you can attempt to use your thieves' tools if you have them.
Nope.
Okay, so you could attempt to break the lock if you'd like, but other than that, you would not be able to see much.
Does she hear any noises from inside?
No.
She's gonna attempt to break the door. Or the lock, I guess.
Do a strength check. Wow.
Now she does it.
So you notice that the lock itself, I mean, you kind of get the impression that I mean, it's not really locked up tight because like, why would anybody want to break into a smokehouse, right? Like, so it's not like it's the um, strongest lock or anything like that. And you notice that it's kind of a little bit rusty, a little bit old, and you're able to just grab a hold of the lock and just like yank on it, and it just the lock itself doesn't break, but the latch on the door that is technically locked, you just like the screws come off. So you basically get like the latch and the lock that come off together. You basically just rip it off the door, and then the door swings open. So in here, the room smells of like cedar wood and charcoal and putrescence. You've got melted candles with black flickering flames that are lining the walls. And in the middle of the room, across an obsidian slab surrounded by a circle of arcane runes with two lines protruding from it, lies a headless body, purple and bloated with decay. And that's where we'll end the session.